Chapter 667. Tian, if the island lord finds out about this, we will all be in trouble. Will you keep this a secret? Tian's body emitted a powerful murderous aura. It seemed like Tian really wanted to kill them. As the most outstanding disciple of the Divine Island, when had Tian suffered such humiliation? He was almost killed by an earth saint. If this matter was spread out, where would his face go? Everyone shuddered. Of course, no one would choose to provoke Tian at this time. We swear to keep this a secret. Yiming, it's fine now. Since things had already reached this point, Yiming knew that he had no other choice. After all, Tian had already made his decision. Among the two strongest people who entered the Divine Island's secret realm, besides him, the other was Tian. In other words, neither of them could control the other. Therefore, since Tian had already made his decision, he couldn't say anything. Yiming understood Tian's character very well. If he continued to stop him, Yiming could imagine that Tian would definitely fall out with him. Then be careful. Ha, me be careful? Yiming, you overestimate Longao. The more Yiming acted like this, the angrier Tian became. His murderous aura surged because in Tian's opinion, Yiming was obviously mocking him. He was almost killed by an earth saint. No matter what kind of trump card the other party had, this shouldn't have happened. Senior brother, Longao's strength is indeed very strong. Although he is only an earth saint, I have never seen his innate ability before. If senior brother Tian goes, I will be worried. Yiming waved his hand. How could he not know what his junior brother was talking about? Yiming's expression was also extremely ugly because he and Tian were cousins. If something happened to Tian, he would definitely be the first to disagree. In any case, Tian's strength is there. We don't have many chances. The island master has already given a death order. This time, we must find that thing. So, we will go and find it first. 1 month later, Longao will die. Longao was somewhat unreconciled that he didn't succeed in killing 15 people. After all, the opportunity just now was extremely rare. It was almost impossible to have a second chance. He didn't continue to dwell on this issue. The main purpose of entering the mysterious territory of the mythical island this time was to find his target. As for the mythical island, he would think about it later. According to the marvelous mathematician, this treasure was hidden in a nameless valley in the center of the mysterious territory of the Divine Island. Because of this, Longao shot toward the center of the mysterious realm of the Divine Island with all his strength. Yiming and Tian didn't know the real purpose of Longao entering the mysterious realm of the Divine Island. They thought that Longao was the same as the disciples of the 10 major islands. They all wanted to enter the mysterious realm of the Divine Island to cultivate. However, only the people of the Divine Island knew about the treasures in the mysterious territory of the Divine Island. As for the others, including the disciples of the 10 great islands, they didn't know about it. Therefore, every time the mysterious land of the Divine Island was opened, the disciples of the Divine Island would enter to search for treasures in addition to cultivating. However, the disciples of the top 10 islands were here to cultivate. However, for so many years, no matter who the Divine Island sent into the Divine Island's secret territory, they couldn't find this treasure. They couldn't even find it in this valley. Longao was very clear that if the marvelous mathematician hadn't told him, he definitely wouldn't have found it. This was the so-called Tao of Divine Divination. Longao yearned for the marvelous mathematician's Tao of Divine Divination very much. It was also because he had witnessed the power of the Tao of Divine Divination that Longao began to work even harder to comprehend the Tao of Divine Divination. He hoped that one day, he would truly comprehend the Tao of Divine Divination. Without the slightest obstruction, Longao easily arrived at the nameless valley. Longao was very curious. According to Longbai, the mysterious realm of the Divine Island was full of danger. The slightest carelessness could lead to eternal damnation. However, the problem now was that his journey here had been smooth sailing. He hadn't encountered any danger at all. The more this was the case, the more careful Longao became. He didn't dare to be careless in the slightest. He was on full alert and vigilant of his surroundings, ready to deal with any danger at any time. The nameless valley was shrouded in black fog. From the outside, it was impossible to tell that there was a huge valley in front of him. There was no need for him to enter. Longao already knew that there were no dangers in the valley. Just the air currents alone were enough to destroy him in a matter of minutes. Longao didn't enter rashly. Instead, he entered the dragon seal space. Long Fu, do you know what exactly is in the valley? Longao was very depressed. From the beginning to the end, he didn't know what he was going to obtain in the mysterious realm of the Divine Island. The marvelous mathematician hadn't said anything from the beginning. He had only told him to enter the mysterious realm of the Divine Island and find this valley to enter. The marvelous mathematician's words were very simple. Once he entered the valley, the treasure would automatically summon him. Was it really that mysterious? Longao could clearly sense the danger in the valley. Therefore, he wanted to ask Long Fu about it. Long Fu thought for a while and said, Master, the marvelous mathematician's art of divination is the most powerful martial technique in the world. It is even more powerful than the 5 elements heaven-swallowing technique. Therefore, I don't have the art of divination and don't know what treasure is in there. If even Long Fu didn't know, this would be difficult. Did he really have to force his way in? He obviously knew that the valley was full of danger. Yet he still wanted to force his way in. This was simply stupid. However, he had no choice but to enter. He had gone through so much and even offended the Divine Island in order to complete the 3 tests and successfully break through to the illusionary divine stage. Longao was very confident. As long as he could break through to the Great Emperor realm, he could lead the sect to fight back against the 4 great forces. More importantly, once he broke through to the Great Emperor realm, he could leave Tianzhou and go out to look for Yuyin and Aoshue. All along, Aoshue and Yuyin had been his biggest concern. Therefore, this test was extremely important to him. No matter what, he had to pass it successfully and obtain the reward. Long Fu, what is in the valley? Why can I sense danger? Master, I have already sensed it. This valley is very strange. Other than the origin energy, there is also a very strange force. If I am not mistaken, the so-called danger that you sensed should be this strange force. Longao was very surprised. This was because he had never thought that the valley in front of him would have the origin energy. If that was the case, why had so many people entered the secret territory of the Divine Island but not discovered this place? Longao was very solemn. Since it was a strange power that even Long Fu was afraid of, it was obvious just how terrifying this strange power was. Chapter 668. Long Fu, how should I enter? Do I have to force my way in? Force his way in. The first method that appeared in Longao's mind was to force his way in. But Longao knew very well that he had not yet figured out what the strange power was. If he rashly tried to force his way in, the success rate would not exceed 30%. Master, this strange power belongs to the dark power, and it is still the same. As long as Master can release the thunder and lightning shield, I believe you can temporarily resist this strange power. He was overjoyed. For the power of thunder and lightning, perhaps the power of thunder and lightning in his body was not enough, but he had the blood-sucking blade. But the blood-sucking blade had not only fused with the 5-clawed golden dragon, but also with the divine thunder bead. Without continuing to ask, Longao held the blood-sucking blade and walked into the valley step by step, slowly disappearing into the black fog. With the help of the blood-sucking blade, a thunder and lightning shield appeared around Longao's body. As Long Fu had predicted, the strange airflow also belonged to the dark power, and the power of thunder and lightning was the nemesis of the dark power. The power of thunder and lightning forcibly split open a small space, and Longao was completely safe in it. It could be said that he knew nothing about the valley. What exactly is it? According to the divine mathematician, once he entered the valley, this treasure would take the initiative to summon him. Although the divine mathematician had the divine mathematician Tao, Longao was still a bit incredulous, because he had been in the valley for a few minutes, but there was still nothing summoning him. Longao began to lose his patience, because the strange power in the valley was too strong. He could not relax at all. Once he relaxed, he would be swallowed by this strange power, and die without a burial place. He was just about to go out, and have a good rest, and then come in later to sense. But at this moment, Longao suddenly felt that something was wrong, and it seemed to be coming from the front. This aura was very weak, but Longao could clearly sense that this aura was summoning him. If he had not experienced it personally, he would have found it hard to believe that this kind of thing really happened. Longao even suspected that the treasures in the valley had been arranged by the oracle. In any case, Master God Diviner wouldn't have been so confident if he hadn't been 100% certain that he would succeed. But no matter what, Longao couldn't do anything about it, even though he knew that it was all part of Master Clairvoyant's plan. For some reason, Longao felt as if he were a chess piece, and Master God Diviner was the one controlling him. Simply put, whenever the God Diviner felt that he was useless, he could destroy him at any time. If that was the case, then it would be too terrifying. It was also because of this that Longao secretly told himself that no matter what, he would not become a chess piece. The only way to not become a chess piece was to grow as fast as possible and become a martialist at the peak of martial arts. Longao didn't continue to think about these things, because he knew that the first step to not becoming a chess piece was to complete the 3 trials, obtain the rewards, and become a great emperor. Longao walked slowly towards the direction that was summoning him. He was still very careful, because the valley was too strange. No one knew what would happen. As the saying went, it was better to be safe than sorry. Slowly, Longao reached the deepest part of the valley. The deeper he went, the clearer Longao felt that something was calling him. He had arrived. Longao stared at the thing in front of him, swallowing hard. He had never imagined that the thing that Master God Diviner had called out to him was not a thing at all, but a huge black dragon. It was hovering there like a mountain. Longao swallowed hard, not daring to move. At this moment, the black dragon was sleeping soundly. If he woke it up, he would have to bear the consequences. He cursed in his heart. Could it be that Master God Diviner wanted him to bring the black dragon back? If that was the case, Longao would choose to give up directly, because the aura of the black dragon was there. Without a doubt, Longao could clearly sense that the black dragon in front of him was a genuine divine beast, which was the so-called divine dragon. What the hell was Master God Diviner doing? Longao, your first trial is very simple. As long as you can take the divine dragon crown from the black dragon, you will have successfully passed the first trial. As your reward, you will receive the corresponding reward, and your cultivation will directly break through to the heavenly saint realm. It was Master God Diviner's voice. Hearing Master God Diviner's voice, Longao was startled at first. Then, Longao didn't know where Master God Diviner was. Because of this, he was 100% sure that all of this had been arranged by Master God Diviner. Longao couldn't figure out whether Master God Diviner was here or not. Before Longao could ask, Long Fu's voice was heard. Master God Diviner didn't appear. He just left his voice here in advance. There is no doubt that all of this was arranged by Master God Diviner. So, Master, I can tell you clearly that Master God Diviner is very terrifying. He is more terrifying than you can imagine. There was a hidden meaning in his words. Longao wasn't a fool. Of course, he could tell that Long Fu's words had many meanings. Was there something different about Master God Diviner? Longao didn't continue to ask, because he had always known that if Long Fu wanted to say something, he didn't need to ask. He believed that Long Fu would say it. However, if Long Fu didn't want to say more, no matter how much he asked, he believed that Long Fu wouldn't say anything. In that case, why was he so bored? No matter what Master God Diviner did, with his current strength, there was no way he could peak at the peak of martial arts. However, there was one thing that Longao was very sure of. Just as Long Fu said, Master God Diviner had left his voice in advance. There was no doubt that all of this was arranged by Master God Diviner. Dragon Crown? Longao didn't know what the Dragon Crown was. But at this time, Longao suddenly heard a message in his mind. He didn't resist. Longao knew very well that Master God Diviner had left this message in advance. There was no doubt about it. He had already guessed what the message was. It was about the Dragon Crown. Sure enough. The message from Master God Diviner was indeed about the Dragon Crown. The meaning was very simple. It was to introduce the Dragon Crown. After roughly digesting it, Longao's expression became more and more shocked, because he was shocked by the identity of the Divine Dragon Crown. It was simply 100 times more awesome than the Divine Dragon Pearl. As everyone knew, the Divine Dragon Pearl was something that every generation of Dragon God must have, but the Divine Dragon Crown, once possessed, could achieve supreme position. P.S. Chapter 5 has been delivered. Rest. Continue tomorrow. Chapter 669. The Dragon God Crown. Longao still did not know how powerful the Dragon God Crown was. However, since it was something that the clairvoyant master needed, he had to take it away regardless of whether it was dangerous. However, the black dragon in front of him was still a divine dragon. Would he be able to fight against a divine dragon? Longao knew very well that if a martial artist of the same level were to fight against a divine dragon, he would not be a match for the divine dragon. After all, a godly beast was born with an advantage. Furthermore, the physical defense of a divine dragon was not something that a martial artist could easily go against. Longao did not dare to act rashly. If he made a mistake, he would be killed by the divine dragon in an instant. What should he do? After thinking about it, Longao did not know what to do. The dragon tribe was famous for being able to sleep. As long as he did not make too much noise, he would not wake the divine dragon up. In other words, Longao was still safe for the time being. Longao looked left and right. Finally, he found the so-called Divine Dragon Crown in front of the Divine Dragon's jaw. Although he saw it, it was not an easy thing to obtain it. Longao knew very well that once he woke the Divine Dragon up, he would not be able to escape. However, could he choose to give up? Obviously not. As such, Longao was prepared to take the risk. Previously, the clairvoyant master had said that once he successfully obtained the Dragon God Crown, he would be able to become a heavenly sage. 8th level illusionary divine. Under normal circumstances, it was easier said than done to break through from the earth sage to the heavenly sage. It would take at least a year or even longer. However, with such an opportunity in front of him, how could Longao choose to give it up so easily? In the end, Longao could only choose to use spatial teleportation. Other than that, he could not think of any other way to snatch the Dragon God Crown from the Divine Dragon. Without further hesitation, Longao knew very well that the longer he delayed, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. Spatial teleportation. Longao disappeared from where he was and instantly appeared in front of the Divine Dragon. Before the Divine Dragon could react, Longao had already grabbed the Dragon God Crown. He was overjoyed. With the Dragon God Crown, Longao knew that he had successfully passed the first stage. Although he didn't know how the Oracle could help him break through to the Heavenly Saint realm, he knew that as the strongest person in the world, the Oracle must have a way. Just as Longao was about to leave, he suddenly realized that the sleeping dragon had opened its terrifying eyes. The dragon's breath instantly enveloped Longao, and a cold voice sounded. "Shameless human, you actually dared to steal my Divine Dragon Crown. Die!" Longao was shocked. He was afraid of the other party, and did not dare to be careless. He immediately used spatial teleportation and prepared to escape. As for whether he would be hunted down by the mystical dragon, he would see when the time came. As expected, Longao's spatial teleportation was extremely powerful. Even with the strength of the Divine Dragon, he couldn't lock onto the spatial teleportation. Just like that, he vanished into thin air right under the Divine Dragon's nose. Looking at the disappearing figure, the divine dragon was completely dumbfounded. It didn't know what had happened. However, the endless anger made the divine dragon soar directly. The dragon's shadow covered the sky and the sun. The terrifying dragon's breath spread in all directions and directly shrouded the entire divine island's secret realm. No matter who it was, they could clearly feel the existence of the dragon's breath. Yi Tian and Yi Ming, who were in different places, raised their heads at the same time. Looking at the dragon in the distance, everyone swallowed hard and their faces were full of shock. "Senior brother, is this the divine dragon?" Nodding his head, Yi Ming didn't dare to move because he could clearly feel that the divine dragon's target wasn't them. There was no need to provoke such a powerful enemy. Longao, who had left with spatial teleportation, wasn't as excited as he imagined. Because he knew that he could hide for a while, but he couldn't hide forever. Unless he could leave the divine island's secret realm and enter the outer sea, then he would be safe. Otherwise, his life would be in danger at any time. Longao didn't dare to have the slightest carelessness. After leaving the valley, he didn't walk on land or fly in the air. Instead, he chose the simplest and least likely to be discovered, which was underground. That's right, underground. Under normal circumstances, it was not easy for even an Earth Saint warrior to walk freely underground. However, Longao's situation was completely different. The netherworld tiger of the 9 nether underworld was the so-called Dragon Underworld. With the help of the power of Dragon Underworld, Longao smoothly entered the underground. Because of this, the divine dragon couldn't find Longao no matter how hard he tried. The divine dragon's face was gloomy to the extreme. As the most powerful dragon clan in the world, the so-called divine dragon crown was taken away under his nose. If this matter was spread out, where would his face go? Where would the dragon clan's face go? The divine island's secret realm was now full of danger. All the people on the divine island and the 10 islands were so scared that they hid. Until now, no one knew what had happened and why a divine dragon suddenly appeared in the divine island's secret realm. Underground. Longao sat quietly underground to comprehend the earth elemental formula. It was very simple. Longao had just stepped into the ground when he was pleasantly surprised in his heart. That was because he had discovered one thing. The so-called 5 elements heaven swallowing art needed to have a corresponding invisible complement. This way, he could get twice the result with half the effort. Because of this, Longao did not cultivate, but wholeheartedly comprehended the earth elemental formula. The 5 elements heaven devouring formula was divided into the metal elemental formula, the wood elemental formula, the water elemental formula, the fire elemental formula, and the earth elemental formula. Among the 5 elements heaven devouring formula, Longao first sensed the earth elemental formula. For some reason, Longao always had a feeling that the so-called earth elemental formula was the best to sense among the 5 elements heaven devouring formula. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, the reincarnation of the 5 elements. Longao's intuition told him that once he cultivated the 5 elements heaven devouring formula and reached the so-called peak, the reincarnation of the 5 elements would be one of the most powerful forces in the world. It was easy to talk about the reincarnation of the 5 elements, but it was extremely difficult to comprehend it. Longao certainly knew this clearly. 5 elements heaven devouring formula. Longao sat quietly underground, using the mental cultivation method of the earth elemental formula to comprehend the earth elemental force around him. He had to admit that it was much easier to comprehend the earth elemental force in this environment. However, Longao was very clear that comprehending the earth elemental force and truly comprehending the earth elemental formula were 2 different things, but it was still a good thing. In this way, Longao was comprehending the earth elemental formula underground, and the divine dragon was constantly looking for Longao in the 9 heavens. Unknowingly, a month had passed in the blink of an eye. The divine island's secret realm would only open for a month. As for missing the time and being unable to leave, there was only one result, which was death. Today was the day to leave the divine island's secret realm. Longao was very clear that if he did not leave today, he would have to wait for 3 more years. If he had nothing to do, cultivating here for 3 years might not be a bad thing. The problem now was that he had a lot of things to do. Not to mention 3 years, he could not even wait for a moment. However, the divine dragon was outside. Once he left the underground, he knew what the result would be. Chapter 670. After thinking for a while, Longao finally decided to leave the underground. No matter what, he had to find a way to get out of here today. As soon as Longao left the underground, he sensed a horrible dragon breath still sweeping around. There was no surprise in his heart, because Longao had already guessed that Serene would definitely not give up. Space teleportation. Longao continuously used space teleportation, and instantly appeared 100 meters away. Then, he rushed forward with all his strength. 9 days. The 300 zhang long dragon shadow swept for an entire month's time, but it still did not find any trace of Longao. Longao rushed to the exit as fast as he could. At this time, only about 30% of the 99 people who had entered the mysterious territory of the Divine Island were left. Everyone rushed to the exit. If it was an ordinary person, it would really be impossible to find Longao. But Shinran was different. Just as Ao Long arrived at the exit and was about to leave, the divine dragon's aura had already enveloped everyone. Yi Tian and Yi Ning saw Ao Long suddenly appear. Just as they were about to attack, they were suddenly suppressed by the divine dragon's aura. They were so frightened that they did not dare to move. Longao was shocked. With a backhand knife, he didn't give Shinran the slightest chance at all. He stepped into the exit and disappeared in the mysterious island. Outside the mysterious island, Yu Wuling stared at the space stone door in front of him, because a month had passed. If Longao didn't die, then he would definitely come out from here. At that time, he would cut Longao into pieces. Since Longao's matter came out, the mysterious island's face was completely lost. Everyone was talking about the mysterious island. Therefore, there was only one solution now, and that was to kill Longao. Suddenly, Longao's figure appeared in the cave of the space stone door. Looking at Longao in front of him, Yu Wuling's heart was suddenly happy. Just as he was about to make a move, a terrifying dragon breath rushed over, like the waves of the sea, wave after wave, almost directly obliterating Yu Wuling. Shocked, Yu Wuling certainly knew what had happened. As expected. At this time, a 300-meter-long black dragon suddenly appeared, scaring Yu Wuling into letting out a cry. It turned out that the giant black dragon was a heavenly god. With Yu Wuling's strength, he was just a small joke in front of the giant black dragon. Longao didn't care about the mythical island, nor did he care about the weakened soul. He directly used the so-called spatial teleportation. In just a few seconds, Longao's figure appeared at the seaside. The black dragon's speed was extremely fast. It was not inferior to Longao's teleportation. However, the black dragon was still a step too late because Longao had already entered the bottom of the sea and disappeared without a trace. Although the black dragon was incomparably powerful, it did not dare to enter the seabed. It turned out that the black dragon was most afraid of water. Once it entered the seabed, its strength would be greatly reduced. What if it encountered a powerful enemy? The anger in his heart erupted like a volcano. How could the dragon god swallow the fact that the dragon god crown was snatched away right under his nose? Although he couldn't find Longao, the dragon god couldn't swallow this anger. He could only vent his endless anger on the mythical island, preparing to destroy it directly. However, at this time, the mythical island's master, Yi Nantian, suddenly appeared. Looking at the black dragon in front of him, Yi Nantian didn't have the slightest fear. He indifferently said, "Black dragon, after so many years, you are still so hot-tempered. Humph, Yi Nantian, no matter when, I will never forget the grudge between your grandfather and I. I will settle this account with your mythical island sooner or later. Ha ha ha, Black Dragon, it's not that I look down on you. That year, my grandfather sealed you in the mythical island's secret realm. I can seal you again now. However, if you are willing to hand over the dragon god crown, I can consider letting you go. The dragon god crown had been stolen. Of course, the dragon god couldn't take it out. However, the dragon god wouldn't tell Yi Nantian. No matter what, the dragon god cared about his face the most. The dragon god was afraid. This in itself showed that Yi Nantian's strength was far above the dragon god crown's. That was why the dragon god crown stared at Yi Nantian. Suddenly, the dragon god crown turned around and left. After a short while, he had already disappeared in the sky. Yi Nantian didn't chase after him. It seemed like he had a card up his sleeve. The corner of his mouth slowly curved up with a trace of a cold smile. Yi Nantian said to himself, "Black Dragon, one day, I will make you hand over the dragon god crown obediently." Nantian, after the dragon god crown left this time, I believe that not long after, the Long family and the dragon race will come in large numbers. Are you really ready? Looking at the ancestor who suddenly appeared, Yi Nantian, as the lord of the mythical island, actually respectfully saluted and said, "Grandfather, everything is ready. This time, the Long family and the dragon race will come. I will definitely succeed." The old man who just appeared was none other than Yi Nantian's grandfather. He was also the real #1 powerhouse of the mythical island. The old man's expression was very dignified. No matter what, the Long family and the dragon race's strength were there. If they were careless, the mythical island would fall into eternal damnation. "Grandfather, I know what you are worried about. The reason why we failed in the past wasn't that our mythical island was weak. It was that the time and place didn't help us. This time, I believe that we will succeed." Since the matter had already reached this point, the old man could only nod and agree. "Since that is the case, you must be careful. If we really can't do it, we can only ask for help. Grandfather." Before the old man could finish his words, Yi Nantian had already interrupted him and said, "Grandfather, I just said that this time, I will definitely succeed. I won't ask for help from anyone. Of course, I won't do anything that you haven't done yet. Nantian, you have to know that once we fail, not only you and me, even the entire mythical island will be destroyed. Long family and the dragon race. Although we are in great danger, there are also great opportunities. Once we succeed, not only in the external endless sea, but also in the Tianwu continent, we can also get a share of the profits. Therefore, this time, we can only win and not lose." Looking at his grandson's confident face, the old man didn't know why he always felt that this matter was somewhat inappropriate. However, he and his grandson had been waiting for this day for hundreds of years. If they didn't give it a try, they wouldn't be reconciled. The matter of the mythical island's secret territory was temporarily closed. The Longao's smooth departure and the Black Dragon's sudden appearance instantly spread throughout the external endless sea. It could be said that the Longao was now a famous person in the external endless sea. However, compared to the Black Dragon, he was nothing. That was because the topic of everyone's greed was always the Black Dragon, not the so-called Longao. Yi Tian and Yi Ming's smooth return made the people of the mythical island heave a long sigh of relief. Whether it was Yi Tian or Yi Ming, both of them had broken through and reached the divine realm. Chapter 671. At the bottom of the outer sea. In the Crystal Palace. Looking at the dragon god crown in his hand, the master clairvoyant's face was full of admiration. He nodded and said, "You have successfully passed the first stage. Senior Master Clairvoyant, I would like to know. I have successfully passed the first stage, but I don't know how to break through to the Sky Sage realm. It would be extremely difficult for an Earth Sage to break through to the Sky Sage realm from the 8th stage of the illusionary divine realm." However, Longao had risked his life to obtain the Dragon God crown. He was looking forward to seeing how the Master Clairvoyant would help him. The Master Clairvoyant could naturally guess what Longao was thinking. "Don't worry about this. I can help you break through to the Sky Sage realm in 6 hours. Longao was very shocked when he heard that. He really couldn't imagine how the godly mathematician could make him break through from the Earth Saint stage to the Sky Saint stage in a short 6 hours. Since the master clairvoyant was unwilling to say, Longao did not continue to ask. Longao did not speak. He stood quietly and waited for the master clairvoyant to speak first. This wait lasted for a full 2 hours. Longao, do you know about the Dragon God Crown? Shaking his head, Longao only knew one thing. The Dragon God Crown in the Master Clairvoyant's hands was superior to the Dragon God Pearl. The Master Clairvoyant smiled and said, The Dragon God Crown does not belong to this world. Then where does it belong? I don't know. Back then, I accidentally obtained the Divine Dragon Crown and gave it to the Primordial Divine Dragon. Originally, I thought that Long Tian and the Primordial Divine Dragon would inherit my mantle and rule this world. However, I didn't expect that the man and the dragon would be too arrogant. With regards to this, Longao had never thought of it. Longao could not understand. Since the Master Clairvoyant had given the Dragon God Crown to the Primordial Divine Dragon, why would the Dragon God Crown appear in the mysterious realm of the mythical island? All of this seemed so mysterious. Once the Dragon God Crown is fused with the Dragon God Crown, his cultivation speed will increase greatly. Not only that, once he fuses with the Dragon God Crown, he will not die no matter what. Death-avoiding Divine Dragon Crown. If the Divine Dragon Crown was as powerful as the Oracle said, then why was the Primordial Divine Dragon killed by the Oracle back then? Before Longao could say anything, Master God Diviner said, If the primeval Divine Dragons had the God Dragon Crown, they wouldn't have perished. Alright, Longao, since you've already obtained the Divine Dragon Crown, I'll give it to you. Longao had wanted to ask why the Primordial Divine Dragons didn't have the Dragon God Crown, but when he heard that Master God Diviner had given him the Dragon God Crown, he was pleasantly surprised. Although the Divine Dragon Crown was of no use to him, it was the most precious thing to Little Rascal. Once Little Rascal fused with it, it could be said that Little Rascal would have an immortal body in the future. Thank you, Senior Clairvoyant. Longao also did not have the slightest bit of politeness, and immediately took the Divine Dragon Crown from the Divine Mathematician's hands. Senior Clairvoyant, since I've successfully passed the first trial, what are the next 2 trials? Let's talk about that later. Master God Diviner brought Longao to a black space. As soon as Longao stepped in, before Master God Diviner could say anything, Longao's expression changed. At this moment, Longao finally understood why Master God Diviner was so confident that he could break through from the Earth Saint Realm to the Sky Saint Realm in just 6 hours. It turned out that there was an enormous amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy in this black space. It was hundreds, or even thousands of times stronger than the outside world. But even so, if an ordinary person wanted to break through from the Earth Saint Realm to the Sky Saint Realm in just 6 hours, could it be that Master God Diviner had already calculated his dragon seal space? At this time, Longao didn't hold back in the slightest. He immediately discussed with Long Fu how they could obtain the greatest benefits in the shortest time possible. In the following time, Long Fu began to refine the heaven and earth spiritual energy in the surroundings. It began to pour into Longao's body. Without a doubt. 6 hours later, Longao's cultivation had smoothly broken through from the Earth Saint Realm to the Sky Saint Realm. However, his realm was still very unstable. But Longao was already very satisfied. Now, Longao was full of confidence. With his current confidence, even if he met a Sky Saint expert, he would definitely have the strength to fight. You really didn't let me down. To be able to break through from the Earth Saint Realm to the Sky Saint Realm in just 6 hours, you are the first person since ancient times. Even Tian Dao back then couldn't do this. Many thanks to Master God Diviner for helping me. Longao, you have successfully passed the first trial. Now, the second trial will officially begin. Longao didn't speak. He just stood there quietly. Longao, the second trial is actually very simple. This time, you will return to the 9 states and lead your dragon sect to destroy the 4 great forces within 2 years. Then, you will have passed the second trial. F***ck hearing the contents of the second trial from Master God Diviner, Longao cursed in his heart. This is called very simple? Even if I want to destroy the four great forces, I have to be able to do it. 2 years. Longao didn't want to wait any longer. But since Master God Diviner had already said it, he couldn't choose otherwise. It was just that there were too many variables in 2 years and no one could say for sure. Longao still did not have a definite time for the 1,000 over Supreme Tao inheritances in the sect. He did not know when all of the 1,000 over Supreme Tao inheritances would become Supreme Tao martial artists. At that moment, who in the 9 states would be a match for him and the Dragon sect? Longao, I have just calculated. If there is nothing else, I advise you to return to the 9 states immediately. Master God Diviner, did something happen in the 9 states? There was a hidden meaning in his words. Longao could hear that there was another meaning in Master God Diviner's words. If there was no accident, it seemed that something had happened in the Dragon sect. That's right. Longao immediately became nervous. He didn't know what had happened in the Dragon sect. Longao, everything has been decided by the heavens. You can't force it. Seeing that Master God Diviner didn't want to say more, Longao became even more anxious. Suddenly, Longao said, My fate is in my own hands, not in the hands of the heavens. My fate has been decided, so I will change it. Longao turned around and left quickly. With the teleportation channel of the Crystal Palace, Longao could return to the Tianzhou in an instant. This was also where Longao could breathe a sigh of relief. Otherwise, rushing back to the Tianzhou from the outer sea would delay everything. Looking at the departing figure, Master God Diviner's expression was unreadable. With a deep sigh, Master God Diviner muttered to himself, My fate is in my own hands, not in the hands of the heavens. Back then, I also tried to change my fate, but in the end, I only ended up like this. Is it possible to change fate? Master God Diviner laughed at himself, then turned and left the hall, disappearing. Chapter 672. Tianwu Continent. 9 Prefectures. Tianzhou Dragon Sect. In the blink of an eye, 4 months had passed since Longao left Dragon Sect. 9 Prefectures was already the overlord of Dragon Sect. Ever since the 4 major powers left 9 prefectures, they hadn't entered 9 prefectures. In everyone's eyes, the 4 major powers were truly afraid of Dragon Sect. In other words, the 4 major powers were afraid of Longao. Longao had risen in such a short period of time. Not to mention that everyone could not understand, even the 4 great forces could not understand. In just 2 short years, Longao had grown to such a level. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, who would believe it? At this moment, Longao was in a complete mess. Everyone was extremely nervous and worried because Longao's parents had suddenly disappeared. That's right, Longyi and Mulin had suddenly disappeared. No one knew where they went. Under normal circumstances, if Mulin and Longyi had something to do and left, they would definitely inform Longhausher. Even if they couldn't find Longhausher, they would probably inform others. But now, without a sound, the 2 of them had disappeared into thin air. Could it be that something had happened to Mulin and Longyi? The more they thought about it, the more afraid they became. No matter what, their identities were too special. The master wasn't here, but their parents were gone. Not to mention others, even the master's grandfather, Longhausher, seemed to be difficult to explain. It was precisely because of this that the entire Dragon Sect was doing their best to find Longyi and Mulin's whereabouts. Dragon Sect Main Hall? Longhausher's expression was gloomy to the extreme. Ever since the rise of Dragon Sect and family, such a thing had never happened. Furthermore, trying to take someone away from the Dragon Sect without anyone noticing was like a fool's dream. It was something that was almost impossible. Father, we've already searched everywhere, but we still haven't found Big Brother and sister-in-law. Waving his hand, Longhausher said in an extremely cold voice. There's no need to search. If there's no accident, the 2 of them should have been taken away. Hearing their father's words, the few of them were shocked. No one could figure out who had such strength to silently take away Big Brother and sister-in-law from Dragon Sect. Father, what should we do now? Longao did not say anything. He lowered his head in deep thought because he really could not think of anyone who could take away his son and daughter-in-law without anyone noticing when the old ancestor was in charge of the sect. Others might not know, but how could he not know? His ancestor's cultivation base had already reached the heavenly god realm. Who on the martial heaven continent could match him? After thinking about it, Longao still couldn't figure it out. In the end, Longao only suspected 4 forces, which were the so-called overlords of the 9 states' spirit domain. They were the East Imperial City, the Long family of the Western Third Grade, the Southern Netherworld Mansion, and the Northern Ethereal Palace. Father, Aoer is back. Hearing that his grandson had returned, Longao immediately stood up. At this moment, Longao rushed back, covered in dust. Using the teleportation tunnel of the Crystal Palace, Longao hurried back to the sect as soon as he arrived in Tianzhou. After entering the sect, Longao's face was immediately filled with worry and nervousness. Aoer, you're back. Nodding his head, Longao impatiently asked, Grandfather, what happened? Longao naturally guessed that his grandson had already received the news. With an extremely grave expression, he said, Aoer, I don't know what happened. 3 days ago, Ear and Shaolin suddenly disappeared. We have already searched for 3 whole days, but we still haven't found the 2 of them. Could it be the 4 great forces? In an instant, Longao thought that it was the 4 great forces. After all, in the 9 states, only the 4 great forces had a grudge with him to the point where they couldn't tolerate each other. However, after thinking about it, Longao immediately rejected the guess in his heart. Because within the sect, other than the ancestor, there was still his grandfather, and the fire Qilin Sangyi. Could the 4 great forces have done it? Longao was very clear in his heart that according to the old ancestor's strength, even if a divine realm martial artist came personally, he might not be able to bring his parents quietly. Moreover, among the 4 major forces, it seemed that the strongest person was only a titled Great Emperor. Not to mention a divine realm martial artist, there was not even an ordinary Supreme Dao martial artist. Since it wasn't the 4 great forces, then who could it be? He was very anxious. His parents had suddenly disappeared, and no one knew what had happened. After greeting his grandfather, Longao immediately left. He released his aura to sense the ancestor's aura. After sensing back and forth, what made Longao feel increasingly uneasy was that the ancestor had actually disappeared. What was going on? According to the ancestor, he would only enter the 7th reincarnation after he had dealt with the 4 great forces. If that was the case, why did the ancestor suddenly leave? Longao knew that if the ancestor was still around, he believed that the ancestor would definitely take the initiative to welcome him when he released his aura. The ancestor had disappeared, and his parents had disappeared. What was going on? Intuition told Longao that things weren't that simple. After finding his grandfather, Longao told him about the ancestor's matter. After listening, Longao thought for a moment and said, Aoer, if it's like this, then this matter isn't simple at all. At the very least, the 4 great forces wouldn't be able to do it. Longao nodded his head. Regarding the meaning of his grandfather's words, Longao naturally knew clearly. Grandfather, there aren't many people in the Tianwu continent who can do this. I've thought about it, and it seems that only the Long family would do this. Aoer, if it's really the Long family, what are you going to do? I'm going to the Long family immediately. Whether it was the ancestor or his parents, Longao couldn't let anything happen to them. Even if he clearly knew that the Long family's strength wasn't something he could contend against, he would still do it. As the saying goes, if you know that there are tigers on the mountain, you will still go up the mountain. Even if there was a mountain of blades and a sea of flames in front of him, Longao was willing to take this risk for his parents and the ancestor. Sighing deeply, Longao said, Aoer, it shouldn't be the Long family. This matter is very strange. You and I have to think about it at length. But the problem right now is that we don't know who is causing trouble behind the scenes. So we have to wait and see what their next step is. In fact, Longao and Long Haosher were both very curious. If this person could even capture the old ancestor without a sound, then it already meant that this person was very powerful. If that was the case, then why didn't he make a move if he wanted to deal with the Long family? Since that was the case, what was their intention? Thinking about it, Longao also felt that this matter shouldn't be the Long family's doing. Otherwise, the Long family wouldn't have given the Long family the slightest chance. Furthermore, he also couldn't understand why the Long family would do this. Chapter 673. Since it wasn't the Long family, then who could it be? Longao couldn't think of a reason no matter how hard he thought about it. Because there was one thing he couldn't understand, and that was why the old ancestor had disappeared. His parents were just ordinary people. Even if they had the inheritance of the divine way, it was not something that could be done overnight to become a divine way martial artist. But the old ancestor was different. As a heavenly god martial artist, unless it was a divine way martial artist of the same level, who else could take the old ancestor away without anyone knowing? This matter was a little strange. Longao regretted not being in the Crystal Palace to ask the godly mathematician. Perhaps others didn't know, but he was very sure that the oracle knew about this matter. No matter what, if it wasn't for the oracle, he wouldn't have been able to rush back so quickly. The path of divine divination. At this moment, Longao couldn't figure out who had taken away his old ancestor and parents. After chatting with his grandfather for a while, Longao immediately began to comprehend the path of divine divination. He knew very well that if he wanted to know who did this as soon as possible, then there was only one way, and that was to comprehend the path of divine divination as soon as possible. Longao didn't return to the Crystal Palace in the Outer Sea. Because Longao knew that even if he went back, the oracle might not tell him. If the oracle was willing to tell him, he would have told him back then. There was no need to wait until now. Because of this, Longao focused on comprehending the path of divine divination. The dragon sect didn't continue to search for Mulin and Long Yi's whereabouts. Not only that, everyone went into hiding. For a time, the dragon sect seemed to be completely silent. Not only that, the news of their disappearance was completely blocked by the dragon sect. 3 days later, Longao quietly left the sect and headed for the spirit realm of the 9 states. After comprehending the path of divine divination for 3 days, he still didn't find anything. The more it was like this, the more danger his parents and old ancestor were in. Therefore, Longao couldn't wait a moment longer. Although he knew that this matter might not be the doing of the 4 great forces, Longao was still unwilling to let go of any clues. He immediately rushed to the spirit realm of the 9 states to investigate the 4 great forces and see if it had anything to do with the disappearance of his parents and old ancestor. The spirit realm of the 9 states. 3rd level Long family, main hall. Long Yen and Long Maoan were extremely surprised by Longao's sudden appearance. The relationship between the 4 major forces and the dragon sect had already reached the point where they were like fire and water. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn red. If it weren't for the fact that they wanted to see what Longao was here for, the 2 of them would have attacked long ago. Heavenly Saint Realm. Long Maoan and Long Yen had no idea that Longao's cultivation had officially broken through to the Sky Saint Realm. Otherwise, who knew what they would think? However, one had to admit that Longao's guts were very big. Even if he was a Heavenly Ascension Realm warrior, once the Long family wanted to deal with him, it would be an easy matter. This was because the rank 3 Long clan had Sage Kings, Sage Emperors, Sage Venerables, Sage Emperors, and even titled Great Emperors. Master Long, may I know why you've come this time? Long Maoan and Long Yan's martial arts were pretty good. At the very least, one couldn't tell that the 2 of them had a grudge against Longao. If an outsider saw them, they would think that the 3 of them were friends and not enemies. Long Maoan, I don't have time to waste with you. Let's get straight to the point. I've come this time mainly for one thing. Longao didn't believe in hiding anything, so he told them about the disappearance of his parents. After hearing this, both Long Maoan and Long Yen were shocked. This was because the two of them had never imagined that Long Ao's parents would go missing right under the nose of the dragon sect. If Long Ao hadn't said it himself, they wouldn't have believed it even if they were beaten to death. In an instant, Long Maoan and Long Yen knew the purpose of Long Ao's visit. Long Ao thought that they were the ones who did it. Long Maoan laughed coldly and said, "Long Ao, it wasn't my Long clan's doing." Long Ao believed Long Maoan's words 100%. This was because he had already guessed that the disappearance of his parents and ancestors had nothing to do with the four major forces. Even so, Long Ao was prepared to give it a try. "Long Maoan, among the four major forces in the 9 states, there are only 3 that are most likely to be responsible. Other than the Nether Mansion, I have to find my parents no matter what. Once I find out, no matter who it is, I'll destroy their entire family." Long Ao's intention was very clear. He had even made his threat clear. If an ordinary person had said this, Long Maoan and Long Yen would have only coughed and treated the person's words as nonsense. However, Long Ao's situation was completely different. Long Ao had the right to say this. Not to mention other things, just the so-called corpse slave army alone wasn't something that an ordinary person could fight against. However, Long Maoan and Long Yen clearly weren't worried. The two of them knew very well that unless it was absolutely necessary, they believed that Long Ao wouldn't choose to die together with them. "Long Ao, I've already said that the disappearance of your parents has nothing to do with my Long clan. Have you gotten a satisfactory answer now? Alright, I hope you remember what you've said today. You want to leave?" Long Maoan suddenly laughed coldly as he looked at Long Ao, who was about to turn and leave. At this moment, 8 Earth Saints and 2 Heavenly Saints suddenly appeared in the Long clan's main hall. In Long Maoan and Long Yan's opinion, this force was enough to easily kill Long Ao. Whether it was Long Maoan or Long Yen, they still thought that Long Ao was just an insignificant saint. Little did they know that in just a few months, Long Ao's cultivation had increased tremendously. He had gone from a saint's substitute to a heavenly saint. After a few days of stabilizing, Long Ao's heavenly saint realm had more or less stabilized. Although he couldn't fight against an advanced heavenly saint or a peak heavenly saint, Long Ao was still confident that he could fight against a beginner heavenly saint and a mid-heavenly saint. However, among the 2 heavenly saints that the Long clan had sent out, one was an advanced heavenly saint and the other was a mid-heavenly saint. With such a force, Long Ao didn't dare to be careless. He was ready to attack at any moment. "Long Maoan, do you think you can keep me here?" Looking at Long Ao's confident face, Long Maoan and Long Yen felt even more uncertain. Could it be that Long Ao was really that confident? Both of them didn't believe it. After all, in their opinion, Long Ao was just an insignificant saint. Even an Earth Saint could easily take care of Long Ao, let alone fighting against 10 heavenly saints alone. "Long Ao, you and I both know how strong you are. With your current strength, aren't you a little too arrogant to think that you can walk out of the Long clan? I'll give you a chance. As long as you take the dragon sect and merge with the Long clan, I'll consider letting you go. How about it?" This was arrogance. This was capital. In Long Maoan's opinion, Long Ao was nothing in his eyes. In his opinion, Long Ao was dead meat. Chapter 674. Long Ao snorted in his heart. Ever since Long Ao had broken through to the heavenly saint realm, he had never tested his strength. An Earth Saint martial artist would not be placed in Long Ao's eyes. However, Long Ao did not have full confidence in defeating heavenly saint martial artists. Long Ao knew very well that Long Moran was only doing this because he wanted to regain his face from the last time. However, Long Ao had managed to leave the Long family despite being surrounded by experts the last time Long Ao went to the Long family. The Long family had lost their face. "Long Moran, if I asked you to bring your family into the dragon sect, would you agree? Looks like you're still stubborn." Before Long Ao could speak, Long Yen suddenly said, "Long Ao, as the saying goes, a wise man submits to circumstances. You'd better know your place. Otherwise, not only you, but even the dragon sect will suffer because of you. Ha! Longao laughed and said, Long Morwen, cut the crap. If you think you can keep me here, just do it. There's no need to waste time. Longao's confidence had indeed stunned the two of them. However, Long Morwen and Long Yen would not give up such a rare opportunity so easily. They did not continue to talk nonsense. This battle was unavoidable, so there was no need to talk nonsense. Long Morwen and Long Yen slowly retreated 20 steps. The two heavenly saints also retreated, leaving only 8 earth saints. The Long family's intention was clear. If they used the heavenly saints to kill Longao, even if they succeeded, the Long family would lose face. Just as Longao had guessed, Long Morwen's attack this time was not only because of the grudge between Longao and the rank 3 Long family, but also because he wanted to regain his face. That was why the Long family thought that 8 earth saints were more than enough. Looking coldly at the 8 earth saints in front of him, Longao did not release any aura as if he had a card up his sleeve. Kill! One of the 8 earth sages dashed out as soon as Long Merciless said the word kill. The way the 8 of them saw it, even if they defeated Longao together, it would not be a glorious victory. Because of this, one of them was prepared to fight alone. Everyone from the Long family was filled with confidence. They believed that even if one of them attacked, Longao would be dead for sure. However, what happened next completely shocked everyone. This was because Longao had only used one move to kill an Earth Saint. It turned out that Longao had used the Divine Dragon Arm when he attacked earlier. Not to mention that Longao was an entire grade higher than an Earth Sage. Even if they were of the same grade, if Longao wanted to kill an Earth Sage, he could do it in an instant. After smashing Earth Sage to death with a single punch, Longao did not hesitate in the slightest. Following that, Longao charged towards the 7 people. This time, Longao also went on a killing spree. It was still the same old saying, if you don't offend me, I won't offend you. If you offend me, I'll return the favor twofold. Longao did not give the 7 Earth Sages any chance. In the blink of an eye, the 8 of them were engaged in a fierce battle. In just a few moves, the battle between the two sides had escalated infinitely. Long Merciless and Long Yan's expressions were extremely ugly. The two of them had never imagined that Longao's cultivation had already broken through. He was not a so-called saint, but a genuine Earth Sage. Not only that, Longao's strength could kill an Earth Sage in an instant. This in itself was enough to prove how powerful Longao was. Losing an Earth Sage made Long Merciless' heart ache. However, things had already developed to this point. Long Merciless was very clear that he had to kill Longao. Otherwise, not only would he lose an Earth Sage for nothing, but the Long family's reputation would also be completely lost. Even so, the two heavenly sages did not make a move. Sometimes, these cultivators were like this. They clearly knew that they were not a match for others, but they still cared about their reputation. If the two heavenly sages had made a move earlier, things would not have developed to this point. 1 against 7. Longao's fists smashed out consecutively. The Divine Dragon Arm and the Hell Tiger Arm alternated. A series of fist shadows appeared, not giving the 7 people the slightest chance. Longao wanted to end the battle quickly. He clearly knew that the longer the battle dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for them. After all, behind the 7 Earth Sages, there were still 2 Heavenly Sages and even more hidden cultivators. Therefore, he could not afford to waste any time. Blood-sucking blade. Longao held the blood-sucking blade in his hand and directly slashed out with his most powerful blade. It was the devouring sky. The terrifying blade light instantly tore apart the space, and the terrifying spatial crack devoured everything. Seeing this, everyone was shocked. The 7 Earth Sages naturally knew what was going on. Not daring to continue fighting, the 7 Earth Sages immediately prepared to escape. However, everything seemed to be too late. The blade light had already devoured everyone. Without a doubt, the 7 Earth Sages were devoured completely. After dealing with the 7, Longao did not leave. Instead, he stared coldly at the four people before him. With a cold snort, Longao said indifferently, "Long Morwen, you forced me. Don't blame me for being merciless." At this moment, Long Morwen and Long Yan's faces were extremely gloomy. A total of 8 Earth sages were mercilessly killed just like that. A total of 8 Earth sages. 8 Earth sages. Even the Long family could not afford to lose them. Longao, do you think that you can go against my Long family just because you killed 8 people? Whether I have the right or not, you don't have the right to say it. I have the right to say it. If I can kill 8 people, I can kill all of you. If you don't believe me, you can try. Longao's words made Long Morwen's face turn even gloomier. This was because Long Morwen had never imagined that things would turn out like this. When did Longao become so powerful? Such a cultivation speed was a little too terrifying. If this kid was not eliminated, there would be endless trouble in the future. Elders, I'll leave this person to you. Nodding their heads, the 2 heavenly sages of the Long family were no longer as relaxed as before. The blade light that Longao had just used was too powerful. Just the spatial crack that it created was something that the 2 heavenly sages were not able to do. Not to mention them, even divine martial artists would not be able to do this. To be able to kill 7 Earth sages in an instant, 1 against 7, was enough to prove Longao's strength. As 2 heavenly sages, they were afraid of a young man. If this matter were to spread, many people would not believe it. Are the 2 of you afraid? Longao, I have to admit that your talent and potential are the best in the 9 continents. However, don't be arrogant. I can tell you clearly that your strength is worthless in the eyes of the Long family. It would be easy for the Long family to eliminate you. Originally, we wanted to give you a chance to join our Long family. However, it seems like you won't have the chance now. Chapter 675. Longamo cursed in his heart. Longao had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen such shameless people. He found it hard to imagine what gave the 2 of them such courage when things had already come to this point. Not to mention anything else, how could the 2 heavenly saints not see anything fishy about the spatial crack that he had created? However, Longao was not worried. Even if one of them was an advanced heavenly saint, he still wanted to see how strong he was now. Longao, we'll let you know the difference between us in 10 moves. 10 moves. The 2 heavenly saints were very confident that they could easily kill Longao in 10 moves. However, Longao sneered and extended his right hand. Others might not know what he meant, but Long Maoan and the other 2 heavenly saints knew what he meant. 5 moves. The 2 heavenly saints needed 10 moves, but Longao only needed 5 moves. What did this mean? Longao was a little too arrogant. Looking at the young man in front of them, especially his blood-red hair and black clothes, the 2 heavenly saints were extremely annoyed. They had never seen such an arrogant person before. Although they were very confident, the 2 heavenly saints still had some fear in their hearts. If it had been an ordinary Earth Saint martial artist, they would not have taken him seriously. However, the situation of the young man in front of them was completely different. The spatial crack that Longao had created had deeply shocked everyone, especially the 2 heavenly saints. Perhaps Long Maoan and Long Yan could not feel anything, but the 2 heavenly saints knew very well that if they had been swallowed by Longao's saber radiance, the result would have been the same. They would have died without a burial place. Both parties did not continue to talk nonsense. Both parties stared at each other, exuding powerful killing intent. Before they even made a move, the powerful killing intent from both parties had already collided violently. Sparks flew in all directions, giving off a feeling that it was either one of them who would die. Long Maoan and Long Yan retreated once again, because their strength was no longer at this level. Long Maoan and Long Yan's faces darkened again. Patriarch, Longao's strength has increased too quickly. It has far exceeded our understanding. If this continues, no one can guarantee how far he can go. Long Maoan didn't say anything. He just listened quietly. Clan, With Longao's cultivation speed, if we continue to indulge him, I'm afraid that one day, we won't be able to control him. Long Mao nodded. How could he not know what Long Yen was worried about? Because of that, Long Mao had already made up his mind. This time, no matter what happens, we have to capture this kid. Heaving a long sigh of relief, Long Yen was very wary of Long Ao, even afraid. The two of them stared unblinkingly at the shocking battle before them. It was hard to imagine that before the battle even started, just the collision of killing intent was already so shocking. Neither side moved. Even so, the two heavenly saints were extremely shocked. They almost shouted in shock. You're actually a heavenly saint martial artist? Heavenly saint martial artist? Long Ao was a heavenly saint martial artist? Hearing the two heavenly saint elders' words, both Long Mao and Long Yen were shocked. The two of them had never imagined that Long Ao, who they thought was just an earth saint martial artist, would actually become a heavenly saint martial artist. Long Yen and Long Mao looked at each other. Both of them could see the deep fear in each other's eyes. This was too terrifying. How long had it been? In just a few months, Long Ao had broken through from the saint stage to the heavenly saint stage. What did this mean? This kind of cultivation speed wasn't something that a human could achieve. At this moment, the two of them finally understood why Long Ao could kill an earth saint in an instant. Moreover, he could still succeed in killing 7 earth saints in a 1-on-7 situation. Long Ao only smiled. At this moment, Long Ao suddenly moved. In the end, Long Ao still chose to make the first move. Although his cultivation had already broken through to the heavenly saint stage, he was still a beginner heavenly saint. If it was a 1-on-1 battle, he might have full confidence. However, in a 1-on-2 situation, Long Ao was more or less a little worried. Because of this, Long Ao finally chose to end the battle quickly. In other words, he was the one who made the first move. In the blink of an eye, the two sides were already engaged in a fierce battle. Of course, Long Ao knew what it meant for the two of them to join forces. Therefore, as soon as the battle started, Long Ao immediately used his innate ability, Dragon Roar. Innate ability, Dragon Roar. At the same time, a huge dragon shadow suddenly appeared behind Long Ao. A shocking scene occurred. The two heavenly saints realized that their bodies were instantly locked in place. Even the flow of time around them began to reverse. What's going on? The fact that Long Ao had an innate ability was known to everyone in the rank 3 Long clan. Even so, the two heavenly saints didn't put Long Ao's innate ability in their eyes. Everyone knew. Long family disciples, no matter what rank they were from, had to enter the Long family's ancestral hall to undergo the so-called bloodline baptism if they wanted to awaken their bloodline and reproduce their innate ability. However, what about Long Ao? Others might not know, but the people of the Long clan knew very well that Long Ao had never entered the Long family's ancestral hall. Otherwise, Long Ao wouldn't be standing here right now. Since that was the case, how powerful would the innate ability that Long Ao had awakened from his bloodline be if he relied on his luck alone? But what was the result? The result was the exact opposite. At this moment, the two heavenly saints had truly witnessed Long Ao's power. Although they didn't know what Long Ao's innate ability was, to be able to lock them in place and change the flow of time, such an innate ability was definitely a super existence even in the Long family. As rank 3 heavenly saints of the Long clan, the two of them knew very well how powerful the innate ability that Long Ao had awakened was. They didn't dare to be careless. Of course, the two heavenly saints knew that if they were the slightest bit careless, they would be doomed eternally. It was precisely because of this that the two heavenly saints used all the strength in their bodies and joined forces to attack the innate divine ability. It had to be said that the two heavenly saints were very powerful. In just a few seconds, before Long Ao could even attack in the next second, the two of them had already used their own strength to forcefully break through the lock. Before the two heavenly saints could react, Long Ao's body had already disappeared. The two heavenly saints might not know what had happened, but as bystanders, Long Yen and Long Morwen could clearly see what Longao had done. Longao had disappeared into thin air? What had happened? Long Maoan and Long Yen yelled almost at the same time. Watch out! Chapter 676. Be careful behind you. The two heavenly saints seemed to know what had happened after hearing Long Morwen and Long Yan's warning. Neither of them dared to imagine how Long Ao had done it. However, the battle had already progressed to this stage. If they let their guard down, they would be killed immediately. The two heavenly saints did not even turn around. They knew very well that the moment they turned around, the chances of them being killed would be infinitely greater. Because of this, the two heavenly saints who had just broken free from the lock struck back with their palms. The power of the combined palms of two heavenly saints was unimaginable. Long Ao cursed Long Morwen and Long Yen in his heart. He even cursed their ancestors. Long Ao knew very well that if it had not been for Long Yen and Long Morwen's warning, he believed that he would have successfully killed the two heavenly saints by now. However, he had already lost the best opportunity. If it had been anyone else, they would have retreated and looked for a new opportunity once they had lost their chance. However, Long Ao was different. Long Ao was such a person. Without hesitation, he used the Divine Dragon arm and the Hell Tiger arm. In the blink of an eye, the two sides had already collided. His fist shook heaven and earth. Boom! With a loud bang, both sides were sent flying. However, the three heavenly saints, who were natural martial artists, forcibly stopped in midair. The two heavenly saints' faces were extremely gloomy as they stared at the youth in front of them. Until now, the two heavenly saints still did not dare to imagine that the other party was so powerful. If it had not been for Long Yen and Long Morwen's warning, they believed that the two of them would have been killed by the other party. Was this for real? Before this, the two heavenly saints were full of confidence that they could easily kill the other party. However, they were absolutely unwilling to accept the result of this battle. Long Ao. Before the two of them could speak, Long Ao spoke first. If it had not been for the two of them, you would have already lost. It didn't even take 5 moves. Hearing this, the two heavenly saints' faces turned ugly. What the other party said was right. They had no rebuttal. They did not even know how to refute him. If I were you, I would go back and buy 2 pounds of tofu and slowly kill you. Pooh! Hearing Long Ao's mockery, the two heavenly saints even had the heart to die. They couldn't wait to find a hole to hide in. However, they knew that this matter couldn't be spread out. Otherwise, where would their dignity go? Where would the Long family's face go? Long Ao, no matter what, you will die today. Really? Looking at Long Ao's strange smile, Long Maoan and Long Yen felt a chill in their hearts. Could it be that Long Ao still had a trump card? It would be a lie to say that he wasn't worried. However, the two of them knew that since things had come to this point, no matter what, Long Ao had to die. It was precisely because of this that the two heavenly saints did not continue to talk nonsense. At this time, with the lesson learned from the previous incident, the two heavenly saints immediately used their killing moves, not giving Long Ao the slightest chance. This time, Long Ao did not continue to use his innate ability and spatial teleportation. He already had 2 trump cards. If he caught them off guard, he believed that he could kill the two of them in an instant. However, it would be difficult to do so once the two of them were on guard. Long Ao continued to punch with his fists. With the help of the Divine Desolation body, Long Ao could be considered to have the upper hand. Boom! 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 Long Ao's strength had far exceeded everyone's knowledge. Before this, no one had thought that Long Ao would be so powerful. It was also because of this that Long Ao's strength had completely disrupted the Long family's plans. Long Maoan and Long Yen had even forgotten their heartache and the fact that they had already lost 8 Earth Saints. At this moment, the two of them only had one wish, and that was to defeat Long Ao. No matter what happened, no matter what price they had to pay, they had to kill him and get rid of all future troubles. Long Maoan had even decided that if the two heavenly saints could not defeat Longao, then in the end, they would have to ask for help from stronger warriors in the family, which were the so-called Saint Kings, Saint Emperors, or even Saint Sovereigns and Saint Emperors. However, unless it was absolutely necessary, Long Maoan was not willing to do so. As the head of the Long family, Long Maoan had to think about the family's interests at all times. If news of this were to spread that they had to summon warriors above the Saint Kings to deal with Longao, the Long family's reputation would be ruined. Sometimes, reputation was more important than anything to the Long family. Head of the family, I'm afraid that the two elders won't be able to defeat Longao. Although he did not want to believe it, the truth was right in front of him. Longao was gradually gaining the upper hand. If this continued, the two elders would definitely lose. How could Long Maoan not know what Long Yen was implying? Did they really have to ask for help from the family's experts? If that was the case, where would the family's reputation go? As the head of the Long family, Long Maoan had more considerations than Long Yen. Waving his hand, Long Maoan said with a serious expression, "Let's wait and see. Head of the family, if Longao kills the two heavenly saint elders, our losses will be unbearable." The concept of a heavenly saint was completely different from that of an earth saint. It could be said that the status of a heavenly saint could not be replaced by 10 earth saints. They had already lost 8 earth saints. If they were to lose 2 more heavenly saints, then the Long family would really have to hide in the toilet and cry. Even so, Long Maoan still could not make up his mind. Ever since he had become the head of the Long family, he had never encountered such a situation. A small Longao had caused a huge commotion in the family, and caused them to lose all their reputation. The battle between Longao and the two elders had reached its climax. Were they really going to lose the two elders? Just as Long Maoan was about to take action, the battle suddenly turned around. Longao was wielding his blood-sucking broadsword and attacking the two elders like a storm. Taking advantage of the fact that the two elders could not hold on any longer, Longao used his innate ability, Dragon's Roar, for the second time. When the two elders' bodies were locked in place, the flow of time around them started to reverse. Since the battle had already reached this stage, it seemed impossible for the two elders to break free from the lock even if they wanted to. They would not be able to escape death. Seeing the situation, Long Maoan and Long Yen panicked. At this point, it seemed impossible for them to find help even if they wanted to. Were they really going to lose 2 heavenly saint experts? The Long family really could not afford to lose 2 heavenly saint experts. If the 2 elders were really killed by Longao, how would they be able to face the ancestors of the Long family? Just as Longao's blade light was about to devour the 2 elders, a terrifying force swept them away, causing Longao's blade light to miss and fail to kill the 2 heavenly saints. Chapter 677. Everyone's face lit up when they saw the elder who had suddenly appeared. The 2 heavenly sages, Long Yen and Long Maoan, immediately bowed respectfully and said, "Greetings, Elder Ancestor." Elder Ancestor? The elder ancestor who had suddenly appeared was none other than the strongest person in the Long clan, Long Yang. He was also the so-called titled Great Emperor. Long Yen and Long Maoan had not expected the elder ancestor to suddenly appear. After all, the elder ancestor had not appeared for so many years. Because of this, the two of them clearly knew that the elder ancestor had come out this time mainly for the youth in front of them. Although Long Maoan's face revealed a hint of surprise, he still felt helpless and depressed. In the end, they had forced the elder ancestor to act. This was already embarrassing for them. "You are Longao? And who are you?" Longao could clearly sense the strength of a titled Great Emperor. Because of this, he was fully on guard and prepared at all times. He also did not know when the elder ancestor would act. "I am Long Yang." Long Yang? Longao was not unfamiliar with this name. He believed that in the 9 states, the name Long Yang would not be unfamiliar. He was one of the only 4 titled Great Emperors in the 9 states spirit region. Longao, you are very arrogant. There wasn't the slightest bit of anger, but anyone could imagine that Longyang, as the ancestor of the Long family, wouldn't be willing to let the matter go. I don't want to talk about who is right and who is wrong. If you want to fight, let's fight. Ha ha ha, what a good. I don't want to talk about who is right and who is wrong. What a good. If you want to fight, let's fight. Longao, among all the young people I have met, you are the one with the most character. You are also the one with the best talent. Longao did not interrupt because he did not know what Longyang wanted. Maoan, what happened just now? You have to answer truthfully. Hearing the elder ancestor's words, Long Maoan's heart trembled. What did the elder ancestor want to do? He didn't dare to hide anything. After all, at this moment, Long Maoan didn't know what the old ancestor wanted. After all, he knew very well that if the old ancestor wanted to, not only could he strip him of his position as the clan leader, he could even kill him. Then, Long Savior told him everything that had happened. 99% of it was the truth. After hearing this, Longyang nodded, and his face began to look a little ugly. According to what you said, Longao can't be blamed for this. Longyang's heart skipped a beat. Longyang had completely stumped Long Maoan. For a moment, he did not know what to do. Slap. At this moment, a slap rang out. Longyang looked at the old master before him in shock. He covered his face with his right hand in disbelief. He had not expected the old master to slap him all of a sudden. Just what in the world was going on? Even Long Maoan and the other two were completely stunned. They all looked at the old master dumbfoundedly, let alone Longyang. Longao coldly looked at the scene in front of him, but still did not say anything. This was because he also wanted to see what kind of medicine Longyang was selling in the gourd. It was also because of this that Longao became more and more afraid of Longyang. His intuition told him that this person was not simple. Longyang, I asked you to assist Maoan in managing the Long clan. Yet you attacked Master Long without any reason. What is the meaning of this? Old Master. Longyang waved his hand, not giving Long Maoan any chance to speak. He coldly snorted and said, Could it be that you want to sow discord and turn us against the dragon sect? Longyang was speechless. He did not know what to say. The situation had changed completely. Originally, he thought that the old master would kill Longao directly if he personally stepped in. But now, the old master was obviously helping Longao. Whether it was Longao, Long Maoan, or the two heavenly saint ancient martial art practitioners, none of them knew what had happened. They thought that the old master had betrayed them. However, the four of them knew very well that no matter who betrayed them, the old master would not betray them. Since that was the case, what did the old master mean by this? He snorted heavily, scaring Longyang so much that he trembled. Master Long, the situation is very clear. Everything was caused by Longyang. You have to know that the Long clan has never intended to be enemies with the dragon sect. We have always been good friends. What do you think? Huh? What did Longyang mean? Not to mention Long Maoan and Longyang, even Longao was a little confused. He did not know what Longyang meant. Although he didn't know, since there was no need to start a war, Longao naturally wouldn't rush. After all, with his current strength, he really couldn't compete with the entire Long family. Just Longyang alone was enough to give him a headache. That's right. I came here this time mainly to ask about the whereabouts of my parents. Longyang attacked me without distinguishing right from wrong. I was merely acting in self-defense. Please take a seat. Longao also did not have the slightest bit of politeness, and directly sat down. Master Long, I have thought about your parents. With the current strength of the dragon sect, there is only one possibility for them to kidnap your parents without anyone knowing. I would like to hear more. Supreme Dao martial art practitioner. Longao had already guessed what Longyang was talking about. It was nonsense. The problem now was that he did not know where this Supreme Dao martial art practitioner came from, and what grudges he had with him. Why didn't he come for him, but his parents? Longao knew clearly that if this person had the strength to kidnap his parents without anyone knowing, it was enough to prove his strength. If that was the case, why didn't he attack him directly? Longao could not think of a reason no matter how hard he thought about it. It was too strange. Brother Long, of course I know it was done by a supreme Dao martial art practitioner. I just don't know who he is. Brother Long? Hearing Longao call the old ancestor Brother Long, Long Maoan and Long Yen had the urge to go up and kick him. He was King shameless. At the same time, they were furious. Because of this, they were inferior by many generations for no reason. But with the old ancestor as an example, Long Yen and Long Maoan did not dare to say anything. They did not know what the old ancestor meant. Was he helping them, or Longao? It seems like this person has no ill intentions. Once a supreme Dao martial art practitioner has his eyes on you, I believe no one in the dragon sect is a match for him. Apart from Longao and Long Haosher, no one else knew about Long Baishan's existence. It was also because of this that Longao became more and more unable to understand. According to the old ancestor's divine realm strength, who could have such powerful strength to be able to take away his parents without anyone knowing and even disappear with the old ancestor? Chapter 678. Master Long, are you suspecting that the four forces are behind this? He shook his head. Longao said bluntly. With all due respect, the four forces don't seem to have any supreme Dao warriors. Everyone knew that the four forces didn't have any supreme Dao warriors. It wasn't a secret. No matter what, supreme Dao warriors were the most powerful warriors in the world. Long family, Heaven and Earth sect, and Wanshou sect were the exceptions. That was why Long Yang wasn't angry at all. Master Long, you're right. The four of us don't have any supreme Dao warriors. So, what happened to your parents wasn't done by us. Longao didn't say anything. He just sat there quietly because he knew that Long Yang must have something else to say. As expected. Long Yang thought for a while and continued. Master Long, I think we should write off the grudge between you and the Long family. How about that? He sneered in his heart. Longao wasn't a fool. Of course, he knew what Long Yang meant. If it was in the past, would the Long family say something like that? No matter if others believed it or not, he would never believe it. In the end, the Long family did this because they were afraid of his strength. However, Longao didn't refuse because he knew the rules of survival in this world. Nodding, Longao said, I don't have any grudge with the Long family. It's just that you don't want to let me go. Since Brother Long has spoken, I won't argue with you. Ck hearing Longao's words, the five of them cursed in their hearts. However, things had already come to this point. Even if Long Yen and Long Maoan were unhappy and unwilling, they could only listen obediently, and didn't dare to say anything. All right, Master Long. Since you're so straightforward, we have a deal. If you need anything in the future, feel free to look for me. Thank you. Longao didn't stay any longer. He got up and left. Looking at the disappearing figure, Long Yang's face instantly turned cold. His body emitted a murderous aura which scared the four of them. They didn't know what had happened to their ancestor. Ancestor. Humph. Before Longao could speak, Long Yang had already snorted coldly and said, You can't do anything right. Longao, you have to remember that we have already lost our best chance. Moreover, killing Longao now will not do us any good. He shuddered. For a moment, he could clearly sense that the old ancestor in front of him wanted to kill him. If it weren't for his identity and bloodline, he believed that he would have been dead by now. Long Yen, that was just a temporary measure. The current Longao is no longer the same as before. If we kill this person, once the Dragon Sex Corp slave army goes all out against us, then we will really be in a passive position. Understood, Ancestor. Hearing the old ancestor's explanation, Long Yen heaved a sigh of relief. At the end of the day, the old ancestor was still on his side and not helping Longao. He had been scared silly just now. Ancestor, what should we do now? Although he didn't understand the old ancestor's meaning, the old ancestor had already personally stepped in. Even if Longyang was the clan leader, he couldn't control Longyang. In other words, as long as Longyang interfered in this matter, Long Maoan would be like a puppet. Long Maoan was very unhappy, but his identity and strength were there, so he could only be a little unhappy. Wait and see. Wait for Longao to make his move. Long Yen and Long Maoan didn't really understand the old ancestor's words. Both of them looked at him curiously. The dragon sect's strength is enough to threaten any of our clans. If Longao leads the dragon sect to fight against the other 3 clans, then we can just sit back and reap the benefits. Isn't that better? So that's how it is. At this moment, Long Maoan and Long Yen finally understood the old ancestor's meaning. He wanted to watch the fight from the sidelines. However, when he thought of the 8 Earth Sacred Realm experts that they had just lost, Long Maoan's expression turned ugly. All right, don't let this matter spread. Understood. An hour later. Clan leader, are we just going to let this go? What else can we do? The old ancestor has already spoken. We can only do as he says. Do you understand? Long Yen said coldly. Clan leader, I believe you've already seen the strength and talent that Longao has displayed. If this continues, I believe that it won't be long before Longao surpasses our clan. When that time comes, what should we do? How could Long Maoan not know the worry in Long Yan's words? However, since the old ancestor had already spoken, what else could he do? Did he have to go against the old ancestor's wishes? However, the old ancestor was the number 1 person in the Long clan. In other words, no one dared to disobey the old ancestor, including the clan leader. Long Yen, do you have a plan? Long Yen nodded and smiled coldly. Clan leader, if we act in secret, the old ancestor might not know. Instantly, Long Maoan understood what Long Yen meant. As long as we send out 2 Saint Kings, I believe that Longao will definitely die. When that happens, we can rest easy. Even if the old ancestor finds out, what's done can't be undone. I believe that the old ancestor won't kill us. For the clan, we can only take the risk. Saint King level warriors were extremely rare in the Long family. Unless they had no other choice, the Long family would not use the so-called Saint King warriors. However, both of them knew that Longao's cultivation had officially broken through to the Heavenly Saint realm. If they sent out Earth Saints and Heavenly Saints, it would be almost impossible to kill him. They might even lose them for nothing. Because of this, both of them knew that the only way to assassinate Longao was to send out super warriors. At the very least, they had to be Saint Kings. However, Long Yen and Long Maoan knew very well what 2 Saint Kings represented. If it weren't for the fact that they had no other choice, they wouldn't casually use the clan's resources. You're right. Longao is too unpredictable. In just a few months, Longao has reached the Heavenly Saint realm. Just as you said, at this speed, Longao will surpass us sooner or later. So, we have to take the risk. Clan leader, have you decided? Long Maoan nodded. He had no other choice because he was very wary of Longao. To be precise, Long Maoan was panicking. As an old fox, Long Maoan had never experienced something like this before. If word got out, probably no one would believe it. Gritting his teeth, Long Maoan said coldly, "It's decided. Go find Long Xing and Long Yu. Remember, tell them not to let the old ancestor know about this. Tell them the severity of this matter. I believe they won't refuse." Understood, clan leader. Chapter 679. After leaving the 3rd rank Long family, Longao did not leave the 9 states spirit domain. This time, he had made an agreement with Long Yang that the grudge between the Long family and the dragon sect would be written off. Although Longao was very clear in his heart that the grudges between him and the Long family could not be written off just like that, at least he could take a breather. It was very difficult to deal with the 4 forces working together. That was why Longao was prepared to deal with them one by one. It was not the Long family, and he believed that it was not the other three families. If that was the case, Longao could not figure out who did it. Who knew how long it would take for him to comprehend the way of divination? Longao knew that the longer he delayed, the more danger his parents and ancestors would be in. He also could not find the clairvoyant. First, even if he went to find the clairvoyant might not tell him. Second, it would take too long to travel from Tianzhou to the outer sea. He could not afford to wait. That was why Longao was prepared to search for the clairvoyant himself. There was no target, not even the slightest clue. At this moment, Longao's heart skipped a beat. He quickened his pace and disappeared without a trace in a short while. Long Xing and Long Yu were the two saint kings of the third-rank Long family. At the same time, they were husband and wife. Under normal circumstances, ordinary people would not be able to ask for their help. However, Long Maoan was the head of the Long family, so no matter what, they would give him face. Brother Xing, Longao is missing. Humph, a mere heavenly saint. The head of the family is making a big fuss by asking you and me to help. Long Xing did not take Longao seriously at all. In his opinion, a mere heavenly saint did not need the two of them to do anything. It was a waste of talent. If this matter were to spread, where would their dignity go? Brother Xing, the legend of Longao is right there. For this child to be able to grow to this extent in just a few short years, there must be something extraordinary about him. Therefore, we should still be careful. He did not think much of it. It was still that sentence. From start to end, Long Xing did not place Longao in his eyes at all. All right, I know what to do. The most important thing now is to find Longao as soon as possible and end the battle quickly. Long Yu nodded. Seeing that her lover did not listen to her advice, there was nothing she could do. Following that, the two of them began to search for their target. In the distance, in a dark place, Longao did not leave. Seeing the two saint rulers suddenly appear, Longao obviously knew what had happened. The Long clan is truly shameless. Longao had already thought of the shamelessness of the Long family, but he never thought that the Long family could be this shameless. He had thought that since Long Yang had come personally, the Long family would keep their word no matter how despicable and shameless they had been in the past. However, he had not thought that the Long family would still send two saint kings to kill him. If it was an ordinary warrior, Longao would not have taken them seriously. However, the problem now was that the other party had two saint kings. Not to mention teaming up, he was not even a match for one of them. If he wanted to leave, with Longao's strength, it would be a simple matter. However, Longao still did not choose to leave. The reason was simple. Since the Long family was not benevolent, they could not blame him for not being righteous. No matter what, he had already made an agreement with the ancestor of the Long family, Long Yang, that their past grudges would be written off and they would not interfere with each other in the future. However, the Long family had turned their backs on him. If he could swallow this insult, not to mention others, just himself, he would deeply despise himself. Because of this, Longao had already decided that no matter what price he had to pay, he would kill the two saint kings. He wanted to let the Long family see what the consequences of being shameless were. However, Longao did not act rashly. No matter what, the other party was still two saint kings. Once they fought, his chances of winning were not high. Therefore, Longao was thinking of various methods to see how he could successfully kill the two saint kings. Within the dragon seal space, Longao went straight to the point and said, Long Fu, is there any way for me to successfully kill the two saint kings? Of course, Long Fu knew exactly what his master meant. After thinking for a while, Long Fu said, Master, with your current strength, if you continuously use your trump card, you should be able to fight against a beginner saint king. However, if it's a higher level saint king, or two of them working together. Although Long Fu did not finish his words, the meaning of his words was clear. Longao also knew about this point. Was there really no way? At this moment, Long Fu suddenly said, Master, it's still the same method. If you really want to deal with the two Saint Kings, you can only borrow the power of heaven and earth. Longao instantly understood what Long Fu was talking about. After thinking for a while, Longao nodded. It seemed that this was the only way. After leaving the Dragon Seal space, the two of them were originally looking for Longao. However, the problem now was that Longao was following them. As two dignified Saint Kings, if they didn't know that they were being followed, who knew what they would think if this matter was known by the two of them? After searching here and there, they had completely lost track of the other party's whereabouts. Brother Xing, it seems that this kid has already left. What should we do now? Long Yu and Long Xing's faces were incomparably ugly. This was because if they couldn't kill Longao this time, how were they going to explain it when they returned? Explaining it was a small matter, but losing face was a big matter. Humph, as long as this kid doesn't return to the Dragon Sect, we have hope of killing him. Everyone knew that the Dragon Sect had a titled Great Emperor. No matter how arrogant Long Xing was, he definitely wouldn't dare to be arrogant to the extent that he could fight against a Great Emperor. Brother Xing, are we going to the 9 provinces now? Nodding, Long Xing and Long Yu were about to leave. However, at this moment, their faces suddenly changed. Suddenly, the two of them laughed out loud. Their laughter was filled with ridicule and contempt. Longao, you really don't know what's good for you. Looking at the youth that suddenly appeared in front of them, although Long Xing and Long Yu muttered in their hearts, relying on their Saint King's strength, they didn't put the other party in their eyes. As everyone knew, the gap between a Saint King and a heavenly saint was huge. It was like a child and an adult. The two of them couldn't be compared at all. Snorting coldly, Longao was fearless, as if he also didn't put the two of them in his eyes. He coldly said, What a long family, what a long yang. Previously, we had an agreement that the grudges between us would be written off. However, in the blink of an eye, the Long family turned hostile. Such a Long family is really a disgrace. Before Long Xing and Long Yu could speak, Longao continued, If you know what's good for you, get the hell back now. Also, tell Long Yang that there's no need for him to play dirty. I'll teach him when the time comes. As for these shameless things, don't do them in the future. It's disgusting to see them. Get lost. Chapter 680. Get lost. Looking at the arrogant young man in front of them, Long Xing and Long Yu seemed to be unable to react. As dignified Saint King martial artists, they were actually told to get lost by a mere heavenly saint. If this matter were to spread, where would their face be? Longao. Longao is not for you to call. I have already given you two a chance. I will say it again for the last time. Get lost or else. Although Longao did not finish his words, the meaning of his words was very clear. The more Longao acted like this, the angrier the two were. The other party simply didn't put him in his eyes at all. It was completely unbearable. What could be tolerated in a secret cave, but not in a chrysanthemum? Since they could not speak and could not win against the other party, they could only fight. This battle was unavoidable. But before the two were ready to fight, Longao suddenly turned and shot away. In a short while, he had disappeared without a trace. Longao ran away? Looking at Longao, who suddenly turned and ran, both Long Xing and Long Yu were completely dumbfounded. They did not know what had happened. Brother Xing, what happened just now? Longao seemed to be provoking us, but... Before Long Yu could finish, Long Xing roared angrily. I want to kill him! Pretentious. Long Xing and Long Yu were not fools. Of course, they knew that Longao was not provoking them at all. He was just putting on an act. After all, the other party's strength was there. Unless there was water in his brain, it was impossible for him to provoke the two of them. Endless anger. Monstrous anger. The two of them felt that they had been fooled. Endless anger and monstrous anger made the two of them chase after him without saying anything. With Longao's speed and the help of spatial teleportation, as long as Longao was willing, he could get rid of the two of them at any time. But at this moment, Longao seemed to be deliberately slowing down. After a while, Longao's heart thumped and the corner of his mouth slowly curled into a sneer. They finally caught up. Sensing the two auras approaching him, Longao was not afraid at all. Instead, he was pleasantly surprised. Because everything had already been arranged, they were just waiting for the east wind. Longao, I'm going to tear you to shreds. Ignoring the two of them, Longao shot forward with all his might. An hour later, the three of them had already entered the dense forest and entered an extremely secluded valley. Longxing and Longyu entered the valley and suddenly lost Longao's aura. However, the two of them clearly knew that their target was definitely here. Brother Xing, I feel that something is not right about this. Why don't we? Waving his hand before Longxing could finish speaking, Longyu had already said, A mere heavenly saint, I want to see what tricks he can play. Overconfidence is conceit. I really don't understand. What gave you such confidence? Looking at the young man slowly walking out, Longxing and Longyu finally felt that something was wrong. Under normal circumstances, the other party should have left long ago. Why did he appear again and again? Could it be that there was some conspiracy? Although he knew that the other party was playing tricks, Longxing still did not put Longao in his eyes. The reason was very simple. In Longxing's heart, Longao was like a child. There was no need to worry about him. Longao, I have to say, you're really not afraid of death. Before Longxing could finish speaking, Longao suddenly looked at Longyu and asked, You're his wife? Although she did not know why the other party was asking her, Longyu still nodded. Oh, I really want to ask you. Do you know that your husband is so retarded? Hearing this, Longxing and Longyu were furious. Endless anger turned into rolling fist shadows. The two of them did not care about their reputation and directly attacked at the same time. They were prepared to end the battle quickly, kill the other party and bring him back to the Long family. In Longxing's opinion, no matter what kind of conspiracy, it was just a joke in front of absolute strength. That was indeed the case. If it was an ordinary person, all tricks would be a joke in front of absolute strength. However, Longao was different. It was because of this that the fate of the two of them was already decided. Since he had already chosen to borrow the power of heaven and earth, Longao naturally would not be so stupid to fight force with force. Just like this, Longao used spatial teleportation and constantly moved around the two of them. The two of them could only be angry and could not catch up to the other party. Longao, are you a man? If you're a man, stop and have a fair fight with us. Longxing and Longyu could not figure out how the other party did it. As for a fair fight, Longao snorted coldly. At this moment, a terrifying sound of thunder suddenly resounded between heaven and earth. Sure enough. Sometimes, Longao even suspected that Long Fu was also proficient in the so-called Tao of divination. Otherwise, why would Long Fu be able to calculate the phenomenon of heaven and earth every time, allowing him to arrange everything? Before Longxing and Longyu could figure out what was going on, Longao suddenly stopped. Longao's sudden action really shocked the two of them. Not running anymore? Run your ass. Longao immediately activated the formation. Following that, the sound of thunder rumbled between heaven and earth, and directly fell on the two of them. If the two of them were prepared, they believed that they would be able to avoid this calamity. However, the two of them did not put Longao in their eyes from the beginning to the end. Without even having the chance to react, the two of them were directly killed by the thunder and lightning. However, Longao chose to make a move at this time. Not letting the thunder and lightning devour the two corpses, Longao withdrew the array. The thunder and lightning of heaven and earth lasted for half an hour before the torrential rain gradually disappeared. Looking at the two corpses on the ground, Longao's face was full of murderous intent. Murderous intent. Originally, he did not want to choose to fall out with the Long family at this time. After all, his parents were not found yet. However, Longao knew that the Long family had bullied him. If he took another step back, there would be no end. Longyang, it was your Long family that was shameless first. Don't blame me for not being moral. The corner of Longao's mouth slowly curled up into a sneer. He grabbed the two bodies from the ground, and without even thinking about it, he headed in the direction of the Long family. If Longao's actions were known by others, it was unknown whether or not he would be scolded for having water in his brain. Long family, main hall. Long Maoan did not know why, but he kept feeling that something was going to happen in his heart. Patriarch, what's wrong with you? Shaking his head, Long Maoan said helplessly. Long Xing and Long Yu will be fine, right? Long Yen obviously knew what the family meant, but he felt it was a little funny. He said, Patriarch, you're thinking too much. How strong is Long Ao and the two elders? Unless Long Ao can make another breakthrough in cultivation in a few days and reach the Saint King realm, is that possible? Chapter 681. That was impossible. Neither Long Yen nor Long Maoan believed that Long Ao could break through from the Sky Saint Realm to the King's Saint Realm in just a few days. Even so, Long Ao's cultivation speed was already unbelievable. Patriarch, don't worry. This time, the two elders will definitely be able to kill Long Ao and eliminate all future troubles. Long Maoan nodded. Although he knew that Long Ao was no match for the two elders, Long Maoan still had a bad feeling about this. It was as if something was about to happen. Long Yang, get out here! Long Yang, get out here! At this moment, a scolding came from outside. Hearing the scolding, Long Yen and Long Maoan's expressions changed drastically. They looked at each other in disbelief. In an instant, their faces were filled with endless anger. Long Ao was simply provoking the Long family. If this could be tolerated, what could be tolerated? After a short while, everyone from the Long family, including the people from the other forces, came out and looked at the young man in the air. At this moment, Long Yang, Long Maoan, and the others appeared. Long Ao, what is the meaning of this? Long Yang's expression was extremely ugly. Long Ao was provoking the Long clan. He didn't care about the Long clan at all. If this matter wasn't resolved properly, the Long clan would lose all face. Ha ha ha, Long Yang, I don't know if you've forgotten our agreement? Both Long Yen and Long Forsaken's faces darkened when they heard the words. Their faces were as ugly as they could possibly be. Others might not know the meaning of Long Ao's words, but how could the two of them not know? One had to know that according to the agreement between the old ancestor and Long Ao, the grudges between the two sides were written off. But in the end, they sent out two Saint Kings to kill Long Ao. Where were the two Saint Kings? At this moment, Long Maoan couldn't care less about Long Xing and Long Yu. Instead, he said, Long Ao, who do you think you are? How dare you behave so atrociously in the Long clan? I'll make sure you don't leave alive today. Waving his hand, Long Yang nodded and said, Of course I remember. The grudge between you and me is written off. From now on, we will mind our own business. Is it really written off? Long Yang was very curious. He didn't know what Long Ao meant. However, at this moment, both Long Yang and Long Maoan's expressions changed. This was because two people had suddenly appeared beside Long Ao. How could Long Yang and the others not recognize the man and woman? Long Yang did not know what was going on, but Long Maoan and Long Yen did as well. Because of this, Long Yen and Long Maoan could not figure out why Long Xing and Long Yu had appeared. What had happened between them? Why didn't he kill Long Ao? Everything was so strange. Long Yang, don't tell me you don't know what happened. Long Yang was no fool. Of course, he could guess what had happened. Turning around, he glared at the two and asked, Is this your doing? Since things had come to this point, Long Maoan did not continue to hide it. He nodded and replied, Elder ancestor, Long Ao has been looking for trouble time and time again. If I let him off easily, how am I going to answer to the family? I've already said that the grudge between the Long clan and Longao will be written off. Are you not going to listen to me? Hearing Long Yang's words, Longao's heart skipped a beat. He could tell that this matter had nothing to do with Long Yang. But no matter what, things had already come to this point. He had no way out. Putting everything else aside, if the Long clan knew about the 2 corpse slaves by his side, it would be very, very difficult for him to leave. Old ancestor. Waving his hand, Long Yang said coldly, "We'll talk about this later." After saying that, Long Yang turned around and looked at the youth in front of him. His voice was still gentle as he said, "Longao, I've already said that the grudge between us will be written off. Long Maoan made the decision on his own. I'm sorry." "Ha, sorry? Long Yang, you really know how to joke. If I kill you and then apologize to you, would you be willing to do so?" Arrogant. One had to admit that Long Ao was really arrogant. After all, Long Yang had already lowered his head. However, he still refused to let it go. This made Long Maoan furious. He roared angrily, "Long Ao, don't be so shameless. Who do you think you are?" This time, Long Yang did not say anything. He felt that Long Yang really did not know what was good for him. Even if the Long clan was in the wrong this time, as the old ancestor of the Long clan, he had already said such words. Anyone would just let it go and leave. But what about Long Yang? If the Long clan gave in, wouldn't it be telling everyone that the Long clan and he were afraid of the person in front of him? Although he did not want to completely fall out with Long Ao at this time, Long Yang was not afraid of a real battle. Everyone thought that Long Ao would back off. However, at this time, Long Ao suddenly said, "I don't have anything. However, there are 2 people who despise you and want to talk to you." Long Ao had just finished speaking when Long Xing and Long Yu suddenly stood up. "Long Xing, Long Yu, come back." According to Long Yang's status, the 2 of them would most likely retreat immediately when they saw the old ancestor. However, this time was an accident. The 2 of them directly ignored Long Yang. Long Xing coldly snorted and said expressionlessly, "Long Yang, let me ask you. Since you and Senior Long Ao have made an agreement that the grudge will be written off, you shamelessly sneak attack Senior Long Ao. As a member of the Long clan, even I feel embarrassed for you. Why don't you just kill yourself?" Hearing Long Xing's words, everyone was dumbfounded. Especially Long Maoan, who looked at Long Xing in shock. He did not know what was going on at all. "Elder Long Xing, have you gone mad? I'm crazy? Ha! You F***ing dare to say that I'm crazy? I think water must have entered your head. Long Maoan, under your leadership, the Long clan is getting worse and worse. As the clan leader of the Long clan, I've always wondered if you're a fool. You're courting death." Long Yang stopped the furious Long Maoan. Long Yang had already realized that something was wrong. Under normal circumstances, Long Xing would not have dared to speak to him like this. What's more, Long Yang discovered that at this moment, Long Xing's eyes were empty, as if his soul had been seized by someone. Although he didn't know how Long Ao did it, Long Yang could still see the clues with a glance. "Long Ao, what have you done? I'd advise you to let go of the 2 of them. Otherwise..." Chapter 682. This is their wish. What does it have to do with me? Shrugging his shoulders innocently, Long Ao took 3 steps back and coldly watched everything unfold before him. "Long Yang, don't you F***ing dawdle here. I don't F***ing like you." Before Long Yang could speak, Long Yu, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, "Brother Xing is right. Other than hiding in a rat hole to cultivate, what else do you know how to say?" Commanding from behind, "I don't even want to talk to someone like you whose brain is full of water." Kacha kacha. Long Yang clearly knew that all of this was Long Ao's doing, but he still couldn't help but move his palms to kill the 2 of them. "Long Ao, you're courting death. You can't blame anyone else. Humph, Long Yang, even your Long clan doesn't like you. I'm very doubtful that your Long clan has the face to continue living in this world. How sad, how sad. Longao, Shio wants to be pretentious here. Do you think I don't know your little tricks? Long Yang cursed in his heart. Longao suddenly looked at Long Maoan and said, Whether it's your decision or Long Yang's betrayal, it only shows that your Long clan is shameless. You're trash. Longao, I'll kill you. At this moment, a figure suddenly shot out from behind. It was a Saint Emperor. Longao was finished. Seeing the Saint Emperor attack, everyone could already see the result in their hearts. Longao would be directly killed by this Saint Emperor, and he would not even have the chance to fight back. Not to mention others, even Long Maoan and the others were 100% sure that Longao would die this time. A Saint Emperor was a powerful existence that a heavenly saint couldn't compare to. But just as this Saint Emperor shot out, Long Yu and Long Xing, who had just been killed by Long Yang, suddenly stood up and fought with the Saint Emperor. As Saint Kings, even if the two of them joined forces, they wouldn't be a match for the Saint Emperor. But the problem now was that whether it was Long Xing or Long Yu, the two of them were no longer humans, but real corpse slaves. The greatest advantage of corpse slaves was that they were immortal. Because of this, the two of them didn't fear death at all. Every move they made was a killing move. In this way, the two of them were actually on par with the Saint Emperor. What the hell happened? Looking at the two who had come back from the dead, everyone was shocked. They didn't know how Long Xing and Long Yu could come back from the dead. It was simply inconceivable. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, no one would have believed it. He seemed to have thought of something. If by Long Yang had also heard of the Dragon Sect's undead army. From the beginning to the end, the four major forces were extremely wary of the Dragon Sect. That was why Long Yang chose to put aside his grudge with Long Ao for the time being. But he didn't expect that Long Ao would be so strange. In such a short period of time, Long Yu had refined the two of them into puppets. You can't do anything right. The two of them shrugged helplessly. It would be a lie to say that they didn't feel heartache for the two Saint Kings being refined into corpse slaves. But so what? Old ancestor, what should we do now? Things had already come to this point. Long Maoan didn't know what to do. After all, they had already lost two Saint Kings. If they continued to lose them, even the Long clan wouldn't be able to bear it. Long Yang also knew that it was pointless to punish Long Maoan at this point in time. After thinking about it, Long Yang gritted his teeth and finally said, Come back. The Saint Emperors who were fighting were also shocked. When they heard the old ancestor's words, they didn't dare to stay any longer and rushed back. Looking at Long Xing and Long Yu who had been refined into puppets, Long Yang's anger reached its peak. He was like a volcano that could erupt at any time. But in the end, Long Yang suppressed it. Long Ao, my Long clan was in the wrong first. What do you want to do? Long Yang had given in? Everyone knew that Long Yang's surrender meant that the entire Long clan had given in. What did that mean? One had to know that the Long clan was one of the four major forces of the Nine States spirit domain. With their power and status, even if the other three major forces came, the Long clan wouldn't care, let alone a small Long Ao. That was why everyone couldn't understand why the Long clan had given in. Could it be that they were afraid of Long Ao? Or were they afraid of the two puppets? That wasn't very likely. Because with the Long clan's strength, it would be easy for them to kill Long Ao if they wanted to. After all, Long Yang was a bona fide titled Great Emperor, the strongest martial artist in the Nine States spirit domain. But the result was, not only did the Long clan not kill Long Ao, but they also gave in. Everyone was confused and didn't know what the Long clan was trying to do. Hearing that Long Yang had finally given in, Long Ao didn't want to make a big deal out of it. No matter what, it wasn't the right time for him to fall out with the Long clan. There was no benefit in doing so. If he was alone, Long Ao wouldn't be afraid of anything. He could do whatever he wanted. But the problem now was that he wasn't alone. He had the entire Dragon Sect behind him. Without the old ancestor, he could only rely on his grandfather and the Fire Qilin. Once the Long family attacked, the dragon sect would be in great danger. It would also give the other three factions an opportunity to take advantage of. Long Yang, you and I had an agreement to let bygones be bygones. But Long Maoan and Long Yen went back on their word. What would you do if you were me? Clenching their fists, Long Maoan and Long Yen couldn't take it anymore. But the old ancestor had already given in. What could they do? I don't know. You don't know, but I do. But seeing that we have a good relationship, Long Maoan, Long Yen, I'll give you two a chance. Kneel down and admit your mistakes. Kneel down? Admit their mistakes? What was Longao trying to do? Longao didn't care about the Long clan at all. No matter what, Long Maoan was the head of the Long clan. Once he kneeled down and admitted his mistakes, it would mean that the Long clan had bowed down to him. Would Long Maoan agree? Without a doubt, Long Maoan wouldn't agree. At the very least, even if Long Maoan agreed, Long Yang would not agree. He would rather have a big war than do something like this. Long Yang's voice was extremely gloomy. He said coldly, Longao, don't go too far. Feeling the murderous aura from Long Maoan, Longao wasn't afraid at all. He smiled calmly and said, Long Yang, don't be angry. I was just joking. As the head of the Long clan, although Long Maoan is a little shameless and despicable, he's still a human. Chapter 683. Longao's words were already overboard. If it was anyone else, they would have died here. However, Longao wasn't afraid because he had the ability to teleport. Even if it was a titled Great Emperor, he was confident that he could escape successfully. That was why Longao acted this way. He wanted everyone to see that the Long family wasn't as scary as they thought. Longao. Waving his hand, Longao sneered before Long Maoan could say anything. Trash. Looking at Long Yang, Longao continued. Long Yang, the grudge between you and me will be written off for now. I hope that there won't be any more mishaps with this agreement. Otherwise, I will destroy the Long family at all costs. With that, Longao turned and left quickly. Looking at the disappearing figure, Long Yang's face was extremely gloomy. It was as ugly as it could get. In the main hall of the Long family, old ancestor Longao refused a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. He didn't even take us seriously. If we don't get rid of him, where will the Long family's reputation go? Long Maoan and Long Yen could be considered to be extremely furious because Longao's ruckus this time had completely humiliated the Long family. It was still the same. If they didn't get rid of him, the Long family wouldn't be at ease. However, Long Yang snorted and said coldly, The two of you acted on your own accord and put the Long family in a passive position. Seeing that the old ancestor wasn't too happy, the two of them didn't dare to say anything. They stood where they were, trembling in fear. Longao and I stopped for a while to restrain the other three forces. When the time comes, they will bite each other, and we will be able to reap the benefits. But now, our plan has been disrupted by you. So that was the case. How could Long Maoan and Long Yen not know what the old ancestor was talking about? However, Longao's cultivation speed was too fast. If this continued, who knew what would happen in the future? After thinking for a while, Long Maoan finally said, Old ancestor, we know what you mean. But plans can't keep up with changes. Longao's development is obvious to all. With this speed, I can say that he will become a titled Great Emperor in less than 3 years. When that time comes, how should we deal with him? Family head is right. Old ancestor, as far as I know, the Dragon sect now has a Great Emperor and a titled Great Emperor. If Longao becomes the third titled Great Emperor, even if the 4 of us join forces, we might not be a match for the Dragon sect. Hearing their words, Long Yang began to ponder. Seeing this, the two of them were overjoyed. Striking while the iron is hot, Long Maoan continued. Old ancestor, if we don't remove the roots, they will grow again. For the benefit of the family, I have no choice but to do this. It doesn't matter if I sacrifice myself. I'm just worried that this kid is growing too fast. Of course, the two of them knew about the old ancestor's plan. If it was an ordinary person, they would believe that this plan would work. However, Longao was different. After all, Longao's development speed was too fast. It was so fast that it was unbelievable. Finally, Longyang nodded and said helplessly, "You spoke too fast. I didn't think it through. This kid is not an ordinary person. We can't treat him like an ordinary person. Old ancestor, Longao is on guard now. If we want to succeed, I'm afraid it won't be that easy." Originally, if they could successfully kill Longao this time, not only would they be able to remove the roots, but they would also be able to regain their family's reputation. It was a win-win situation. However, they had lost the opportunity. Who knew where Longao had gone? As for the dragon sect, to be honest, neither Long Yang nor Long Maoan dared to go there. This was because everyone knew that there was a titled Great Emperor and a Great Emperor in the dragon sect. If that's the case, no matter what, we can't let Longao leave here alive. Old ancestor. Longao is too unpredictable. Even Long Xing and Long Yu were turned into puppets. Looks like he's not simple. Bring me Chener. Long Chen? Long Chen had gone to the Long family not long ago. Not only had he successfully awakened his gifted superpower, his cultivation had also improved tremendously. In a short period of time, he had broken through the heavenly saint realm and reached the so-called king sage realm. Everyone in the Long family was extremely excited about Long Chen's rapid improvement. With Long Chen's cultivation speed, they believed that it wouldn't take long for him to become a great emperor and even break through to the Supreme Dao stage. A Supreme Dao stage martial artist was definitely a top existence in the Jiuzhou continent. Once Long Chen became a Supreme Dao stage martial artist, the Long family's status would also rise. At that time, even the other three major forces would have to be wary of the Long family. In a short while, Long Chen had already entered the main hall. Long Chen first bowed to the three of them and asked, "Old ancestor, are you looking for me?" He went straight to the point. Long Yang and the other two didn't know about the relationship between Long Chen and Long Ao. Otherwise, who knew what the three of them would think? "Chener, I believe you know about the grudge between the family and Long Ao. Now I want you to kill Long Ao. Can you do it?" Long Chen's heart sank. Of course, Long Chen wasn't willing to do it. In his heart, he had already treated Long Ao as a true friend. Now that he was asked to kill a friend, would he agree? Before Long Chen could speak, Long Yang continued, "I'll give you two people. No matter what, you have to bring back Long Ao's body." Long Yang and Long Maoan left, leaving Long Chen alone in the main hall. Long Ao, who had left the Long family, slowly curled his lips into a cold smile. He didn't leave but entered the Dragon City, which was the biggest city under the Long family. In a luxurious restaurant. It was empty. If it was any other time, there would be a sea of people. But at this moment, the restaurant was empty because Long Ao was here. Now, Long Ao was considered a celebrity. Everyone knew about him. How many people dared to barge into the Long family alone and make the old ancestor of the Long family apologize personally? "Long Ao, you shouldn't stay." Seeing Long Chen suddenly enter, Long Ao seemed to be very surprised. But he still smiled and pointed to the seat beside him, saying, "Please sit." Long Chen didn't stand on ceremony and sat down. At the door stood two people. They were the two Saint Kings sent by Long Yang. This time, in order to successfully kill Long Ao, Long Yang had put in a lot of effort. Previously, they had already lost Long Xing and Long Yu. If they lost two more people, then the few Saint Kings in the Long family would all die. This was a price that the Long family couldn't afford to lose. But Long Ao's development was so fast that Long Yang was already afraid. So, he didn't care about anything else. If it wasn't for Long Chen, Long Yang believed that Long Yang would have directly sent Saint Emperors. In the end, Long Yang trusted Long Chen. But thinking about it, it made sense. Long Chen was not only a dragon warrior, but he had also awakened a special ability. P.S. Happy Mid-Autumn Festival, everyone! Chapter 684. Looks like Long Yang is going to fart again. Long Chen sighed deeply. Long Chen couldn't stand what his family had done. They had already agreed to write off the grudge between them, but they went back on their word and did it again and again. Once this got out, would the Long family still have any credibility? Longao, do you treat me as a friend? Longao smiled and said, If I didn't treat you as a friend, I wouldn't be sitting here and wasting time with you. I believe we would have already started fighting. Ha, you're right. Cheers. The two of them raised their cups at the same time and drank. Looking at the two Saint Kings at the door, Long Chen suddenly said curiously, Longao, I'm very curious. With your strength, it seems impossible to kill Saint Kings. I want to ask, how did you do it? Not only Long Chen, but everyone was curious. However, Longao was only in the heavenly saint realm. There was a huge gap between him and Saint Kings. They weren't on the same level at all. Long Chen thought that he couldn't do it at all. Long Chen was shocked by Longao's cultivation speed and talent. He knew very well that the reason he was able to break through to the Saint Ruler realms so quickly was because he had awakened his bloodline reproduction talent superpower. Long Chen's bloodline reproduction talent superpower, but what about Longao? Although he had already awakened the innate ability, he hadn't gone through the bloodline purification. In that case, his talent was far from Longao's. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't envious. However, Long Chen was only envious. He wasn't jealous or hateful. Long Chen, I treat you as a friend, so I won't hide this from you. The reason why I could kill two Saint Kings was all because of the might of heaven and earth. The might of heaven and earth? Long Chen seemed to be very curious. He didn't know how Longao had used the might of heaven and earth to kill two Saint Kings. Longao really treated Long Chen as a friend, so he didn't hide much. He told him everything about how he had set up a formation and used the lightning of heaven and earth to kill the two Saint Kings. After listening to it, Long Chen was shocked. Longao, so you're also a formation master? Seeing Longao nod, Long Chen swallowed his saliva. Of course, he knew what a formation master meant. A formation master was an extremely rare existence in the world. There were even rumors that a formation master could kill 8 people at once. It was even rumored that once a Nihility Martialist became a powerful array master, he would be able to kill enemies with the help of array formations. Before this, he hadn't really believed this. However, Long Chen finally understood that such a thing really existed. However, Long Chen also knew that he could not be both a formation master and a martial artist. In other words, it was impossible for him to have any achievements in both the martial Tao and the Tao of formations. No matter how talented a person was, it was impossible for them to achieve this. But what about Longao? Longao's achievements in the martial way were already obvious to all. He was definitely the number 1 person in the 9 states. As for the way of matrices, just by looking at how Longao was able to eliminate 2 Saint Kings with the help of matrices, one would already know how high Longao's attainments in the way of matrices were. Which was also to say that regardless of whether it was in the martial Tao or in the Tao of array formations, Longao was a first-rate existence. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes and heard it from Longao, he wouldn't have believed that there was such a talented person in this world. Longao, I have a presumptuous request. I don't know if you're willing to agree. I can't do it. Without waiting for Long Chen to speak, Longao already knew what he wanted to do. Just as expected. The Tao of Formation. Once, I also wanted to cultivate the Tao of Formation, but I didn't have a good master. Longao, why don't I be your disciple and you teach me the Tao of Formation? Long Chen, I see you as a friend. If possible, I'll teach you the formation. However, I have an agreement with my master. Before I take revenge, I can't teach anyone. So I'm sorry. He didn't continue to argue. Longchen smiled and said in a low voice, Longao, now that the ancestor insists on killing you, it will be difficult for you to leave Dragon City. Regarding this point, Longao had long expected it. Seeing that Longao wasn't worried at all, Longchen was even more surprised. Could it be that Longao really ignored the family and the ancestor? Longyang sent you to kill me? That's right. Then what are you going to do? Since you and I are friends, I won't attack you no matter what. Longao smiled and said, If you don't kill me, how will you explain it to the Long family? Things had already come to this point. Longao was very clear in his heart that he and the Long family had already reached the point where they could not tolerate each other like fire and water. In other words, it was the so-called either you die or I die. However, it involved Longchen. What should he do? How could Longchen not know what Longao was thinking in his heart? For a moment, the two of them didn't speak. They just drank and drank. In a short while, the two of them had drunk a few jars of wine. With their strength, no matter how much wine they drank, it was impossible for them to get drunk. Chunner, you've disappointed me. Hearing the sudden voice, Long Chen's body trembled. At this moment, Long Yang, Long Maoan, and Long Yen slowly walked in. The three of them didn't look good. The three of them had never thought that the most outstanding disciple of the family would get along so well with Longao. It was obvious that the two of them were friends. Ancestor, uncle. Am I still your uncle? Didn't you promise us before? But now, not only did you not kill him, you're sitting here drinking with him. If this matter were to spread, where would the Long family's face go? Long Maoan scolded and continued. Longao killed 2 Saint King elders of the Long family, and caused trouble in the Long family. We won't take revenge for this. Without waiting for Long Maoan to finish, Longao waved his hand and sneered. Long Maoan, do you have any shame? I thought that as the overlord of the spirit domain, the Long family wouldn't be so shameless. You have to remember, it wasn't me who wanted to write off everything. It was Long Yang who said that from now on, all the grudges between us would be written off. But what happened? Long Maoan was speechless. On the surface, you wanted to write off everything with me, but secretly sent Long Xing and Long Yu to assassinate me. If I hadn't found them in time, I would have been a corpse now. Long Chen is here. I want to ask who is right and who is wrong. Is the Long family shameless enough to talk to me about losing face? I'm very puzzled. Does the Long family still have any face left? Chapter 685. Longao, you're arrogant. Today, I'll let you know the price of arrogance. Long Maoan was truly enraged. He couldn't wait to tear Longao into pieces. As the head of the Long family, he had to bear all the responsibility for this. If he didn't get rid of this kid, he wouldn't have the face to continue being the head of the Long family. But at this moment, Long Chen suddenly stood up and said uncomfortably, Ancestor, uncle, I want to ask you a question. Ask. Ancestor, Longao just told me that you told him to write off the grudge between you two. Is that right? That's right. Since things had come to this point, Long Yang didn't want to hide it anymore. No matter who was right or wrong, the person in front of him had to die. Long Chen looked very disappointed and said helplessly, Ancestor, our Long family is one of the 4 major forces of the spirit domain of the 9 states. Other than our strength, what's more important is our reputation. How could Long Yang not know what Long Chen wanted to say? His face darkened. If it wasn't for Long Chen's talent and strength, Long Yang believed that at this moment, Long Yang would have killed him. No matter what, Long Chen had not only awakened his bloodline, but he was also a dragon martial artist. With the combination of the two, as long as Long Chen had time to develop, with Long Chen's talent, he would soar into the sky one day. Thinking of this, Long Yang wasn't angry at all. Instead, he tried to persuade him. Chunner, you've finished your business. You can leave. Could he leave? Long Chen knew very well that once he left, the ancestor and uncle would definitely attack Longao. Although he already knew that Longao was a powerful array master, no matter what, the ancestor's strength was there. Once the battle started, Longao would have a high chance of being killed. Although he didn't like the way the Long family did things, he was still a member of the Long family. In other words, whether it was the Long family or Longao, he didn't want to see anything happen. Because of this, Long Chen naturally wouldn't choose to leave. Grandfather, please let Longao go. Impossible. The more Long Chen acted like this, the more Long Yang wanted to kill. Long Chen, you go first. You. I'm fine. As a friend, Longao didn't want to make things difficult for Long Chen. No matter what, if Long Chen was here, even Long Yang wouldn't be able to do anything. Longao knew very well that Long Chen wouldn't leave. But at this moment, Long Yang suddenly attacked. He didn't give Long Chen the slightest chance. He had a Saint Emperor take Long Chen away. Longao, do you really think you're invincible? Although Long Yang was very surprised by Longao's strength, he was still a mere heavenly saint. Even if he had the strength to kill a holy king, a heavenly saint was still a heavenly saint. Long Yang was full of confidence. As long as it was not a supreme Tao warrior, he had no fear. Supreme Tao martial artist. Was Longao a supreme Tao martial artist? AI. Letting out a heavy sigh, Longao's face was filled with disdain, because he had discovered a problem. No matter how much he said to such a shameless person and shameless family, it was like playing the lute to a cow. Kill! Just as Long Yang finished speaking, two figures suddenly shot out from behind him. This time, Long Yang had brought two holy emperors with him to end the battle quickly. Unless there was no other choice, Long Yang would definitely not personally attack. Again, he was still the Long clan's old ancestor. If he casually attacked, especially against a mere heavenly saint, it wouldn't be good if word got out. The Long clan had many experts. Holy kings, holy venerables, and holy emperors were everywhere. There was no need for him to attack. Not daring to be careless, Longao prepared to fight back, but he was already sent flying by the two holy emperors. His body was like a kite with a broken string, violently flying backwards. If it weren't for the desolate divine body, just this alone would have been enough to kill Longao. Because of this, both Long Yang and Long Maoan were extremely shocked when they saw that the two holy emperors couldn't take care of Longao. They increasingly felt that Longao wasn't simple. Kill! Yes, old ancestor. The two holy emperors felt ashamed that they didn't manage to kill Yishiwen in one strike. The difference between a heavenly saint and a holy emperor was too big. If they couldn't take care of Yishiwen, it would be a huge loss of face. Just like this, the two holy emperors attacked again. One strike after another, each strike was vicious. They didn't give Longao any chance at all. In just a few minutes, Longao had already been hit several times. Longao knew that if this continued, he would definitely die in less than 30 strikes. After all, the difference in cultivation level couldn't be made up for by other things. Long Yang, I'll definitely pay you back double for what you did today. Want to leave? Just as he finished speaking, a scene that shocked everyone appeared. Longao, who had been there just a moment ago, suddenly disappeared into thin air. Nobody knew what had happened to Longao. What was going on? In the next second, Longao appeared outside the restaurant. Longao had used spatial teleportation 3 times in a row. Even if Long Yang attacked personally, he might not be able to catch up with Longao. Spatial teleportation was also Longao's biggest trump card. Kill! Long Yang was very shocked. He didn't know how Longao did it. Long Yang asked himself in his heart. If it was him, would he be able to do it? Without a doubt, he was 100% sure that he couldn't do it. Not to mention him, even a supreme Tao warrior wouldn't be able to do it. The two holy emperors stood there in a daze. Hearing Long Yang's roar, they shuddered. They didn't dare to be careless, and immediately rushed out of the restaurant. But in the end, as soon as the two of them came out, everyone, including Long Yang and the others, looked at Longao, who had already disappeared. Everyone looked at each other, not knowing what had happened, because no one could figure out how Longao did it. How could he disappear into thin air? Old ancestor Longao? Long Maoan swallowed his saliva. He didn't know how to describe Longao, because he had never seen or heard of such a thing before. Not to mention Long Maoan, even Long Yang didn't know how Longao did it. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed it. Longao, Longao. Long Yang's lips slowly curled into a cold smile, because he realized that Longao had a lot of secrets. If he could catch this person and get his secrets, it would be beneficial for him and his family. Thinking of this, Long Yang said, "Send out a kill order. No matter what, kill this person and bring back his corpse." Chapter 686. Longao's strength had completely shocked everyone in the Long family, especially Longao's sudden disappearance. It was unheard of. The Long family issued a kill order. In an instant, the entire spirit region of the 9 states began to change. The Nether Mansion, Ethereal Palace, and Imperial City turned a blind eye to the grudge between the Long family and Longao. They looked as though they were watching a good show. The 3 families almost unanimously recognized the fact that no one could stop Longao's rise. Not to mention one family, even if the 4 families worked together, they wouldn't be able to stop him. Moreover, the other 3 families were naturally willing to watch Longao and Imperial City fight each other. It would be best if both sides suffered heavy losses. At that time, the 3 families would be able to reap the benefits. Normally, the Long family wouldn't be so reckless and give the other 3 families a chance to take advantage of the situation. However, things had already developed to this stage. The Long family knew that if they couldn't deal with Longao, their status and reputation would be greatly reduced. However, Long Yang had personally taken action this time. This meant that the entire Long family had no way out. It could be said that the Long family had turned out in full force this time. All the experts were searching for Longao's whereabouts. In the Imperial City, the strongest experts of the 4 major forces, the only 4 titled Great Emperors, Weilin Great Emperor, Xinhe Great Emperor, Netherworld Great Emperor, and Long Yang Great Emperor, sat together. "Long Yang, we can't fulfill your request." How could the 3 titled Great Emperors not know what Long Yang meant? The 3 of them despised Long Yang in their hearts. Things had already developed to this stage. If the 3 families were to get involved, they would be asking for trouble. The 3 of them weren't fools. That was why Long Yang's expression was very ugly. After thinking for a while, he said, "If the 3 of you are willing to help, I can promise you that if you can successfully kill Longao, each of you will get a drop of Divine Dragon Blood Essence. How about it?" Divine Dragon Blood Essence? Hearing these words, the 3 great emperors' expressions changed at the same time. The 3 of them knew very well what the Divine Dragon Blood Essence represented. Without a doubt, the 3 of them had already reached the titled Great Emperor level. If they could obtain the Divine Dragon Blood Essence, it would be indescribably beneficial to their cultivation. On one side was Longao, and on the other was the Divine Dragon Blood Essence. How should he choose? For a moment, the 3 of them fell into deep thought. Long Yang didn't urge them because he had full confidence that it would be very difficult for the 3 people in front of him to resist the temptation of the Divine Dragon's Blood Essence. Not to mention the 3 of them, even a true Supreme Tao warrior might not be able to resist such a temptation. He was very reluctant in his heart because he had kept the 3 drops of Divine Dragon Blood Essence for many years. He had originally planned to keep them for himself, but in order to deal with Longao, he had no choice but to take out the 3 drops of Divine Dragon Blood Essence. However, the result almost made Long Yang go berserk. "Brother Long, I'm sorry, but we still can't agree." "Why is that?" Long Yang couldn't understand whether the three of them had lost their minds or not. After all, no one could resist the temptation of the conditions that he had just proposed. Moreover, if the four major forces joined hands, killing Longao wouldn't be a difficult thing. "I'm sorry, this has always been between you and Longao. It's not convenient for us to intervene." Long Yang shrugged helplessly. Since things had come to this point, Long Yang didn't continue to stay. He got up and left quickly with a cold snort. In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared without a trace. This time, Long Yang didn't leave quickly. "I'm afraid this matter is going to be troublesome." "Humph, so what if he doesn't leave quickly? Do you think we're fools? Anyone with a discerning eye can see that Longao is no longer the same as before. Moreover, Longao and the Long family have already reached a situation where either you die or I die. Why should we intervene? It's simply asking for trouble. Brother Wei is right. In any case, Longao is too unpredictable. We can't let him go no matter what." Netherworld Great Emperor's words were agreed by the other two. Although the three of them looked very harmonious on the surface, they each had their own ulterior motives. If they could kill each other, they believed that none of them would be soft-hearted. Longao still hadn't left the Nine States spirit domain. It could be said that he turned a blind eye to the Long family's pursuit order. The Nine States spirit domain didn't have the power of the Dragon sect. Sin City was his headquarters, but Longao had taken away thousands of divine Tao inheritances from the grave of the gods. Longao was very clear that the power behind the grave of the gods was very terrifying. If he went back, wouldn't he be asking for trouble? Sin City, Long family, Longao didn't care about anything. The reason was very simple. His parents, Long Yi and Mulin, were still missing. Even the old ancestor who had reached the heavenly god realm had also disappeared. From the beginning to the end, Longao didn't know what had happened and who was behind it. He didn't know where to start. At the peak of a mountain, Longao stood quietly, looking at the endless void in the distance. His face was filled with worry. The other party was too strong. Longao couldn't imagine. If the other party was so strong, it wouldn't be difficult for them to destroy the Dragon sect. But they didn't do that. They only took his parents and the old ancestor. What did they mean by that? Just like that, Longao stood at the peak of the mountain for an entire night. 7 days later, Longao suddenly received news that his parents had returned to the Dragon sect. Surprised, Longao didn't stay any longer. He rushed to the Dragon sect as fast as he could. On the way, he met with the Long family's attacks and killed them all. After a few attacks, the Long family suffered heavy losses. Long Maoan and Long Yang were extremely angry, but they didn't dare to attack the Dragon sect rashly. Longao was defeated, but the other three major forces were overjoyed because the four major forces had been fighting openly and secretly for countless years. Everyone wanted to kill each other, and thus dominate the entire spirit domain of the 9 regions. Because of this, the Nether Mansion, the Imperial City, and the Ethereal Palace continued to sit and watch. They were waiting for the Long family to anger the Dragon sect. When that time came, there would be a good show. In the end, what made the three forces feel helpless was that the Long family actually endured it this time. It seemed that they wouldn't be able to see a situation where both sides suffered heavy losses. But this time, Longao's counterattack made the four forces see Longao in a new light. He created the Long family alone. Not only did he kill 2 Saint Kings, but he also left under the nose of Long Yang, a titled Great Emperor. What did this mean? Not only that, in the end, the Long family was even afraid of Longao and did not dare to kill him. Just this point alone, Longao already had the upper hand, and the Long family could be considered to be at a disadvantage. If this continued, the Long family would be unlucky sooner or later. How could the Long family not know about this? How could Long Yang not know? P.S. 3 chapters a day. The outbreak will officially start on the 15th, and will continue until the end of the month. Chapter 687. The Spirit Region of the Nine States. In the main hall of the Long clan. At this moment, Long Yang's expression was ugly to the extreme. The Long clan had issued a kill order, but they had failed to kill Longao in the end. Although no one mocked them to their face, Long Yang knew very well that the Long clan had lost all face. All of this was because of one person, and that was Longao. Elder, according to reliable sources, Longao has successfully returned to the Dragon Sect. What should we do now? Long Maoan and Long Yen asked carefully, because all of this had exceeded the Long clan's knowledge. No one could have imagined that Longao was so powerful. He looked like a heavenly saint, but in reality, he could kill a sacred king. Even a sacred emperor could not kill him. With this person's talent and cultivation speed, if he was not eliminated, there would be endless trouble in the future. Long Yang knew this, and so did Long Maoan and Long Yen. Longao, there are too many variables. Just as you said, this person must die. Long Maoan and Long Yen still did not speak, because they did not know what to say at this point. Maoan, if we attack the Dragon Sect with all our strength, what are our chances of winning? Elder, forgive me for being blunt. Long Maoan thought for a moment and said, Longao scared away Wei Ling and Shin He. The first time, Longao turned into a demon, and the reason is unknown. The second time, if I'm not wrong, he should have borrowed the power of the Dragon Sect. What do you mean? Elder, I don't believe that Longao could rise so quickly just because of luck. I've already asked around about Longao's past. Next, Long Maoan told him about Longao's matter in detail. After listening, Long Yang nodded and said, If that's the case, it seems that this person must have gotten some kind of opportunity to rise so quickly. I understand what you mean. This opportunity is in the Dragon Sect. That's right. So what if it was in the Dragon Sect? Everyone had already guessed that Longao's rise was definitely not due to luck and the so-called hard work. They believed that the biggest reason was because of an opportunity. They clearly knew that the opportunity was in the Dragon Sect, but how many people dared to go there? Back then, Emperor Shin He had been scared off by Longao. Although Emperor Shin He hadn't said much, anyone who understood what had happened would be able to guess. Because of this, the Dragon Sect was becoming more and more mysterious. No one knew what kind of existence existed within the Dragon Sect. Ancestor, let's observe first. We can't act rashly. If there are any losses, only the three clans will benefit. Long Yang was well aware of this. 9 States Dragon Sect. Longao had just returned to the Dragon Sect when he received the news that his parents had returned safely. Overjoyed, he immediately went to find them. After confirming that they were safe, he let out a long sigh of relief. Before Longao could ask what was going on, his heart skipped a beat. After bidding farewell to his parents, Longao immediately entered the back of the mountain. Enveloped by a white light, he disappeared without a trace. Inside the cave, looking at the old ancestor in front of him, Longao asked impatiently, Old ancestor, what exactly happened? Where did you and my parents go? Although the old ancestor and his parents had returned safely, Longao didn't know why, but he had a feeling that this matter wasn't as simple as it seemed. Otherwise, the old ancestor wouldn't have looked so serious. Aoer, it was very dangerous this time. Sit down, I'll tell you slowly. Nodding his head, Longao found a place to sit down. Then, Long Batian recounted everything that had happened in the past few days without leaving out anything. After listening, Longao clenched his fists tightly. His face was filled with killing intent. One could imagine how terrifying the anger in Longao's heart was. Old ancestor, since the Long family wants to deal with me, why don't they do it openly? With the Long family's strength, they could easily destroy the Dragon Sect. Why do they have to do this? According to what the old ancestor said, Longao finally knew who was the one who did it this time. Long family? Previously, Longao had guessed that this might be the Long family's doing. But after thinking about it, Longao denied his guess. The reason was simple. The Long family was too strong. As one of the strongest forces in the world, the dragon sect couldn't possibly go against the Long family. In other words, based on the strength of the Long family and the dragon sect, the Long family could destroy the dragon sect in a matter of minutes. Because of this, Longao never thought that the Long family would do such a thing. You're oversimplifying things. After thinking about it, Long Batian said, Your rise has exceeded the Long family's understanding. If it were an ordinary person, the Long family would kill them. But you're different. Longao didn't speak. He sat there quietly and listened. Because there were some things that he couldn't figure out, but the old ancestor knew. Your talent and growth speed are obvious. Plus, you've already rebuilt the dragon sect. The Long family isn't stupid. They can't bear to kill you, but if they don't kill you, they're afraid that you'll betray them in the future. So the Long family wants to use my parents to threaten me? Long Batian nodded and continued. As long as they take your parents away, you can grow as you wish. When the time comes, you'll have to listen to the Long family. So that was it. In addition to anger, Longao was more solemn. Because the other party wasn't an ordinary force, and it wasn't an existence that the four major forces could contend with. The Long family. Even if all the forces in the 9 states were combined, they wouldn't be a match for the Long family. At this moment, the Long family had their eyes on him. It seemed that he was in trouble, big trouble. This time the Long family thinks highly of you. That's why they sent 2 Supreme Tao warriors. Fortunately, I didn't enter the cycle of reincarnation. Otherwise, the Long family would have succeeded this time. Thank you, old ancestor. Longao didn't dare to imagine. If his parents were really taken away by the Long family, wouldn't he become very passive? The consequences would be unimaginable. Just as the old ancestor thought, if his parents were controlled by the Long family, no matter what he did, he wouldn't be able to escape from the Long family's palm. Just thinking about it made him feel scared. Waving his hand, Long Batian sighed deeply and said, Long family's 2 Supreme Tao warriors, I didn't kill them. Again, before your strength reaches a certain level, you can't provoke the Long family. Otherwise, once the Long family wants to kill you, you'll be in big trouble. Old ancestor, I really want to know, what level have I reached to be able to contend with the Long family? Longao wanted to know about this point, because according to the old ancestor's strength, he couldn't contend with the Long family. One could imagine how terrifying the Long family was. Chapter 688. If you can reach the height of Long Tian, I believe that you will be the strongest besides the marvelous mathematician and Tian Dao. Puchi. Longao naturally knew who the Long Tian that the old ancestor spoke of was. That was the old ancestor of the Long clan. What a joke, if he could reach the height of Long Tian, not to mention himself, the Long family would not dare to trouble him. It was useless to ask. Ancestor, then what should I do now? Wait and see. The Long family did not make it clear. It seems that they still don't want to deal with you, so you can just pretend that this matter did not happen. As if thinking of something, Longao suddenly said, Ancestor, you dealt with 2 Supreme Tao warriors this time. Isn't that telling the Long family that you are still alive? Thinking of this, Longao's heart thumped. Longao knew clearly about the grudges between the ancestor and the Long family. According to the ancestor, the reason why he fell was all because of the Long family. If the Long family knew that the ancestor was not dead at all, it was easy to imagine what would happen. Long Batian smiled. Don't worry. It's just 2 little Supreme Tao warriors. I don't have to show up. I see. Although Longao was relieved that his parents returned safely, he became more dignified. Long family, how should he deal with the Long family? Or you can put it down. Long family will not deal with you in a short time. As far as I know, the Dragon Clan is about to face a great tribulation once in 10 years. According to the past practice, this time will last as long as a year. Great tribulation? Was it the Tian Dao? No matter what, Long family could not deal with him in a short time. It was always a good thing. At least he had enough time to prepare. Or did you gain anything from your trip to the 9-state spirit domain? Not knowing what the ancestor was referring to, Longao roughly told him about his trip to the 9-state spirit domain and the battle with the Long family. Or you have to speed up. Understood. After chatting with Longao for a while, Longao left the cave. As soon as he returned, Longao was called by Longhausher. He went straight to the point and asked, Or let me ask you, does this matter have anything to do with the Long family? The older, the wiser. Longao did not continue to hide the truth from his grandfather. He told his grandfather everything that the old ancestor had said just now without changing a word. Sure enough, it seems that the Long family can't bear it anymore. The reason why the Long family is like this is all because of you. So from now on, you have to be extra careful. Longao was well aware of his grandfather's worries. Longao felt warmth in his heart because he knew that no matter where he went, no matter what time it was, only family would never change. As for everything else, it was all nonsense. Grandpa, I know. Your mother was taken away this time and seemed to be in shock. Go and accompany her. Nodding his head, Longao stayed by Mu Lin's side for the next few days. Gradually, Mu Lin began to regain her senses. This time, Longao finally understood a truth, and that was no matter how fast he and the dragon sect developed, in front of the Long clan, he and the sect were still nothing. So everything still depended on strength. According to the old ancestor, the Long family would not have the energy to deal with him for at least a year. He could make use of this time to develop the strength of the dragon sect. Divine Dao inheritance. According to Longao's plan, he would first train the 300 people in the family to become Divine Dao martial artists. Then, he would slowly select people to receive the Divine Dao inheritance. But now, time was not waiting for him. So, Longao decided to speed up the inheritance process and carry out more than 1,000 Divine Dao inheritances at the same time. There were advantages and disadvantages to speeding up the process. The biggest disadvantage was that he did not know who would defend the dragon sect to the death. After all, a Divine Dao inheritance was not a joke. So Longao was clear that this matter must be strictly monitored. There must not be the slightest mistake. Finding Dugabai, Long Patian, and the rest, Longao told them the general idea. After hearing this, everyone was endlessly shocked. Because everyone was very clear on what a Divine Dao inheritance represented, let alone 700 Divine Dao inheritances. If everyone received a Divine Dao inheritance, wouldn't it mean that the dragon sect would have more than 1,000 Divine Dao martial artists in the future? What kind of concept was that? Just thinking about it made them excited. All of you, remember, no matter who it is, you must be strictly monitored. I don't need to say more about what a Divine Dao inheritance means. I believe you all know it in your heart. Since that's the case, from now on, all of you will work harder. I want to gather enough people in the shortest time possible. At this time, Ghost King Ao Tian suddenly stood up and said, Master, finding people is not a problem, but the problem now is, once all of us receive the inheritance, what will happen to the dragon sect? Ghost King's meaning was actually very simple. Those who received the Divine Dao inheritance would definitely be the dragon sect's most outstanding disciples. 700 people were practically the foundation of the dragon sect. Once all of them chose to go into seclusion, how would the dragon sect protect itself? Nodding, Longao indeed did not think about this problem. Now that he thought about it, it was indeed a problem. That's the only way. From now on, the dragon sect will immediately lock down and transfer all of the Divine Dao inheritances underground. Longao was very clear that once the divine Tao inheritances were accepted, they would be the key targets of the dragon sect's protection. Nothing must happen to them, because if there was a war with the Long family in the future, this would be the foundation. Therefore, he could only choose to transfer these people, and the best way was to completely lock down the news. This way, not to mention the Long family, even the disciples of the dragon sect might not know about it. Comparatively speaking, the divine Tao inheritances would be very safe. Master, this method is feasible, but there is still a problem. The grudge between us and the four major forces will have to be resolved sooner or later. If we transfer and the four major forces attack us, how will we deal with it? This was a very realistic problem. After all, the strength of the four major forces was there. Even if the four major forces could not compete with the Long family, they could not be underestimated. Moreover, according to the grudge between the two sides, everyone could be sure that the four major forces would come sooner or later. Therefore, the question raised by Ghost King hit the nail on the head. The four major forces, of course, Longao would not forget the four major forces. Especially this time, he had completely fallen out with the Long family. Longao was completely sure that the Long family would not let this matter rest. Just as Ghost King said, if the four major forces came, how could he resist? Formations. Suddenly, Longao thought of the formation. It seemed that only the formation could help him temporarily resist the four major forces. As long as he waited for 3 to 5 years, he would be able to destroy the four major forces in a matter of minutes. Chapter 689. Regarding formations, the current Longao had already reached a very high level of attainment. Longao was very clear in his heart that it was not a simple matter to rely on the strength of the sect to withstand all kinds of dangers. Therefore, formations were the only way and the best way. Array masters were divided into Level 1 array masters, Level 2 array masters, Level 3 array masters, Level 4 array masters, Level 5 array masters, Level 6 array masters, Level 8 array masters, and Level 9 array masters. Above Level 9 formation masters were King formation masters, Emperor formation masters, Supreme formation masters, Emperor formation masters, and God formation masters. Longao had officially become a Supreme formation master. It was also because of this that Longao was confident that he could start to set up higher level formations. According to all the formations left by his master, Longao thought about it and decided to overturn all the previous formations and set up 10 new formations that were linked together. The 10 formations were the 9 heavens 10 earths slaughtering formation, 10,000 ghosts soul devouring formation, everlasting chaos formation, nirvana void lifeless formation, 3 lives 3 deaths soul dispersing formation, hidden dragon divine annihilation formation, 6 wheels wraith formation, boundless tornado illusion formation, 12 divine wraith formation, and 3 lives 3 deaths soul dispersing formation. Next, Longao started to set up the 10 formations with all his might. It was easy to say, but it was extremely difficult to set them up. At this moment, apart from setting up the formations, Longao also had to fully comprehend the 5 elements heaven devouring art and divine divination Tao. 5 elements heaven devouring art. Divine divination Tao. Longao knew very well that apart from cultivating his own body, the other 2 most important points were to comprehend the divine divination Tao and cultivate the 5 elements heaven devouring art. Back mountain. Longao's body suddenly disappeared. This time, for some unknown reason, Longao's teleportation distance had doubled and it was even faster. It was as if it happened in the blink of an eye. Longao's body appeared again. Unable to conceal the pleasant surprise on his face, Longao was extremely excited in his heart, because he never thought that the combination of spatial teleportation and earth elemental art would be so powerful. Longao was very clear in his heart that if he were to cultivate the earth elemental arts under normal circumstances, it would be very, very difficult to comprehend. It could even be said to be extremely difficult. However, after a period of continuous exploration, Longao finally discovered a problem. That was the fusion of spatial teleportation and earth elemental art. In other words, as long as a certain part of the body came into contact with earth elemental power, the speed and direction of spatial teleportation would increase. This was something that Longao had never expected. Since the earth elemental art could fuse with spatial teleportation, then what about the metal elemental art, wood elemental art, water elemental art, and fire elemental art? Although Longao had not truly entered the five elements heaven swallowing mantra, he was able to double the power of his teleportation with the help of the five elements heaven swallowing mantra. This could be considered a small gain. The five elements heaven swallowing mantra was indeed the most powerful cultivation technique and martial skill in the world. Just comprehending the surface of it was not an easy task. Longao continued to cultivate the earth elemental art, quietly sensing the surrounding earth elemental power. Longao, get out here for this, young miss. Tonglinger's voice instantly spread throughout the entire dragon sect. Those who heard her voice were all shocked. Before they could react, a beautiful figure had already entered the dragon sect. Longao appeared. Looking at Tonglinger in front of him, Longao was not surprised at all. Because before this, Longao had already told him that if there were no accidents, Tonglinger would kill her way to his door. Just as expected. What one feared would happen. Although Longhao's cultivation had broken through to the Great Emperor realm, he was still a Crimson Grade Great Emperor. However, he was still a genuine titled Great Emperor. The difference between the two of them was huge. Lady Longao is not back yet. Please calm down. Lying to me? Tonglinger snorted coldly. Previously, when she was shaken off by Longao, Tonglinger got angrier the more she thought about it. Other than unwillingness, she was even more furious. Because she had never thought that she would be played by Longao. Lady Tong, I did not lie to you. Aoer has not returned since he left. If you have something to discuss with Aoer, why don't you tell me first? When Aoer returns, I will inform him. How about it? Longao was obviously in the dragon sect, but Longao was lying through his teeth. If this matter was known by the rest of the dragon sect, what would they think? However, Longao really did not have any way to deal with Tonglinger. As the saying went, it was better to avoid trouble. Tonglinger, of course, did not believe him. She suppressed the anger in her heart and said coldly, I have already asked around. Longao has already returned to the dragon sect. Longao, I advise you to mind your own business. You are not qualified in front of me. Indeed, he was not qualified. If an ordinary person said that, they would have died long ago. However, Tonglinger was different. As a titled Great Emperor, Tonglinger was indeed there. Great Emperors were divided into 11 ranks. From low to high, they were divided into Crimson Great Emperor, Orange Great Emperor, Yellow Great Emperor, Green Great Emperor, Cyan Great Emperor, Blue Great Emperor, Purple Great Emperor, and lastly, titled Great Emperor. The difference between each rank of Great Emperor was huge, not to mention the difference between Crimson Great Emperor and titled Great Emperor. Looking at the young lady in front of him, Longhao's face was extremely ugly. Because the old ancestor would not appear under normal circumstances, only the fire Qilin could go against Tonglinger in the entire dragon sect. Longao, I will ask you one last time. Where is Longao? Just when Longao didn't know what to do, Longao suddenly appeared. He looked at Tonglinger and said, Why are you looking for me? As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn red. After being played by the other party once, Tonglinger was simply depressed to the extreme, and also extremely angry to the extreme. However, before he could make a move, Longao continued, I have something to talk to you about, come with me. Tonglinger was confused, but she didn't want to kill Longao. She nodded and said coldly, If you don't give me a reasonable explanation this time, I will annihilate your dragon sect. Aoer. Grandfather, I'm fine. Longao smiled and left with Longao. Dragon sect back mountain? Longao, I want to hear your explanation now. Humph, you said that you would bring me along. Why did you ditch me? I didn't explain. There is only one reason. What I was going to do was very dangerous. I couldn't bring you along. You are Yu Yin's junior sister after all. No matter what, I can't let anything happen to you. What do you think? So you are doing this for my own good? Tong Ling obviously wouldn't believe it. However, things had already come to this point. She knew clearly that she couldn't kill the other party, so she could only do this. Smiling, Tong Linger found a clean rock and sat down. Chapter 690. Longao, the grudges between us can be written off, but you have to promise me one thing. What is it? Longao wasn't a fool. Of course, he wouldn't agree immediately. What a joke. If Tong Linger wanted him to die, would he really commit suicide? Coward, don't worry. What I want you to do is very simple. Longao didn't say anything. He just stood there quietly. Longao, I've heard about you from senior sister. I really want to know. After 10 years of perseverance, what kind of opportunity did you encounter that allowed you to rise up in just a few months? As long as you tell me, we'll write off our grudges. How about it? Impossible. Without even thinking, Longao directly refused. Because Longao couldn't tell anyone about the dragon seal. Not to mention Tong Linger, even his parents, grandfather, Yuin, and Ao Shua had never told anyone about it. The dragon seal was Longao's biggest secret. It was also because of the dragon seal that Longao rose up in the face of adversity. Otherwise, the current Longao would probably still be a trash, suffering humiliation and ridicule every day. Without waiting for Tong Linger to continue speaking, Longao already impatiently said, You must remember, I see that you are Yuin's junior sister, that's why I'm like this. Otherwise, you won't have the chance to stand here. You. Don't think that I'm afraid of you. You don't need to know about my matters. If there's nothing else, please leave. As soon as he said it, Longao regretted it. No matter what, Tong Linger was still Yu Yin's junior sister. He felt a little sorry for Yuin. However, Tong Linger wasn't as angry as he imagined. She suddenly smiled and stuck out her tongue. If you don't want to say it, then don't say it. Why are you throwing a tantrum? If you're like this, I'll go back and tell senior sister that she'll ignore you from now on. Looking at the girl in front of him, Longao was completely speechless. It was true that a woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the sea. No matter what, you would never be able to see through a woman's heart. Longao had always thought that Tong Linger was definitely looking for trouble this time, but now it seemed that Tong Linger was completely fine. What was going on? Shrugging helplessly, Longao did not ask about Yuin. He knew that even if he asked, she might not tell him. Otherwise, she would not have waited until now. Tong Linger, I want to ask you something now. I hope you can answer me honestly. It's best that you don't ask about senior sister. Master has already instructed me that no matter what happens, I cannot tell you anything about senior sister. I'm sorry. It's not about Yuin. That's good. You can ask now. After thinking for a while, Longao said, The Tianwu continent is divided into the 9 continents spirit domain and the ordinary spirit domain. The 9 continents spirit domain is dominated by the Eastern Imperial City, the Long family in the west, the Nether Underworld Palace in the south, and the Misty Palace in the north. However, as everyone knows, these 4 powers are not the strongest existences. I want to ask, Long family, where are the Heaven and Earth sect and Wanshou sect? Longao had always been curious about this question. You really want to know? Nodding. I can tell you, but the main thing is that you're not strong enough. Even if you know, it's useless. It won't be too late to tell you after you break through to the Emperor realm. Fuck! Longao cursed fiercely in his heart. He had the impulse to go up and kick the other party away. He glared fiercely and said, "Since that's the case, I still have important things to do. Please go ahead." Asking her to leave. Longao didn't have the slightest bit of compassion for such a beautiful woman. He didn't give Tonglinger any chance to speak. Longao's battle god left. Looking at his disappearing figure, Tonglinger stomped her foot and said angrily, "Longao, just you wait. One day, I'll make you obedient to me." Longao asked Longpotian to keep an eye on Tonglinger. He knew that although Tonglinger was a titled Great Emperor, she didn't have any ill intentions towards him. Therefore, as long as Tonglinger didn't do anything too outrageous, it was fine for her to stay in the sect. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Tonglinger really didn't leave the dragon sect. She stayed in the sect freely. No matter what Longao was doing, she would find trouble with him every day. In a short span of 3 days, Longao was depressed to the extreme. Because of Tonglinger finding trouble, he was unable to calm down and cultivate. The situation was urgent. Longao knew that he didn't have much time left. He had to set up the 10 major formations as soon as possible and comprehend the 5 elements heaven-devouring technique. However, could he do it now? With Tonglinger's strength, unless the old ancestor made a move, even the fire Qilin wouldn't be able to chase her away. "Master, someone wants to join the sect? Do you know who it is?" Before Longao could ask, Yu Wuxuang had already appeared. His expression was a little ugly as he said coldly, "Longao, let's be frank. My 100 drops of dragon blood must have been taken by you. Seeing that we're friends, as long as you hand over the 100 drops of dragon blood, I won't settle this score with you. How about it? 100 drops of dragon blood? How was he going to hand it over?" He sneered in his heart. Ever since he obtained the 100 drops of dragon blood, Longao had asked Long Chang to integrate them. According to Long Fu, as long as Long Chang could successfully integrate the 100 drops of dragon blood, he would become an ancient divine dragon. He could even surpass the ancient divine dragon. Since that was the case, how could he hand it over? Of course, Longao would not admit it. "Brother Yi, I have already said that the 100 drops of dragon's blood were indeed with you when you left. Furthermore, who in our dragon sect would be able to secretly take away 100 drops of dragon's blood from you? I am certain that I am unable to do so." Hearing that, Yu Wuxuang's expression turned even more terrible. In reality, Yu Wuxuang did not believe that Longao and the dragon sect could take the dragon blood from him without anyone noticing. However, everything pointed to Longao. If it was not Longao, who could it be? After thinking about it, Yu Wuxuang still felt that Longao was the most suspicious. It was precisely because of this that Yu Wuxuang returned and came to the dragon sect for the second time. If it was anything else, Yu Wuxuang might have given up. However, the 100 drops of dragon blood were too important. He had spent decades and scammed to finally collect all 100 drops of dragon blood. But in the end? Not to mention Yu Wuxuang, he believed that no matter who it was, they would not let it go. At this moment, Yu Wuxuang could be said to be desperate. His expression turned cold, and a terrifying force suddenly erupted from Yu Wuxuang's body, directly pressing down on Longao. According to the Dragon Sect's foundation, it was easy to kill Yu Wuxuang. After all, Long Baishan's strength was not to be underestimated. However, Longao could not do that because even if the Patriarch made a move, he was not completely confident that he could kill this person. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.